Jay, what, do you remember, is there a rule about how far back? Stay behind the TV and go over here.
Okay.
Is that even enough room?
Yeah. Okay. And is there audio plug in? Jump on the microphone audio? Not particularly.
I mean, I don't know how they normally do it. So I've seen people put microphones up there on the front table, but
Thank you.
Stop showing up in person.
Testing.
Are we recording?
Yeah, recording, Chair.
So we're ready to go, right? Yes. Okay. This is the March 5th, 2026 regular meeting of the Fire and Police Commission. Present are Commissioners Burgos, Evans, Fong, Schneider, Spence, Spencer, Worrell Patterson, and myself, Commissioner Horowitz. Commissioner Rainey is excused. Also present are FPC Executive Director Leon Todd and Deputy Director Jay Kusin. Director, please proceed with the agenda.
thank you, Madam Chair. We will begin with item number 1, public comment. For those who would like to speak and are here in person, please come up and sit at the front table when your name is called. If you are appearing virtually and have registered in advance to speak, please use the Raise My Hand feature in the webinar tools and then unmute yourself when called upon to speak. Each person will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. We will begin with the people in person. The first individual for public comment is Alyssa Cole. Good evening.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Alyssa Cole, and I am part of the Milwaukee Alliance Against Racism and Political Repression. The FBC has outlined suggestions for policy changes to SOP 660. While these changes lessen the reason for officers to engage in vehicle pursuits, it does not go far enough. Vehicle pursuits are deadly, dangerous, and cause unnecessary risks to the community MPD is supposed to protect. The SOP needs to have the clear limit that vehicle pursuits can only occur in life-threatening emergencies. When pursuits do occur, they must adhere to SOP 575, releasing the footage to the public and families as outlined. MPD also needs to be more transparent. Residents deserve to see how MPD is spending our tax dollars. Having pursuit data for 2014 only become available in 2025 is unacceptable. And I just have a short enough today, so thank you for your time.
Kyle Welton. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Kyle Welton, and I reside at 133 North Jackson Street, apartment 29. I come before this body tonight because I'm deeply concerned about the lack of oversight that allowed a Milwaukee police officer the ability to track his romantic partner and her ex through Flock safety. This officer logged into the system and searched for these individuals a total of 179 times. The reporting on this incident states the department's policy is that officers must list the reason for every search, including the case number and the law enforcement related purpose for the search, but Officer Ayala simply listed investigation each time and was granted access. While this conduct alone is chilling and disturbing, it is even more concerning when you consider the broader context. According to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Officer Ayala had been accused of dishonesty on the job. In 2022, a federal public defender wrote that Ayala had exaggerated so much in his testimony and reports that it almost seemed, quote, like a compulsion. Ayala had also been disciplined at least 3 times in Milwaukee as a result of internal investigations and came under investigation 3 additional times while working as an officer in Glendale, where he once repeatedly tasered a man during a drug arrest. Despite a pattern of dishonesty and misconduct, Officer Ayala was not placed on the Brady list until 2 months ago and was still provided access to a system that allowed him to electronically surveil his girlfriend and her ex with taxpayer-funded resources intended to protect the public. Officer Ayala has a deeply troubling pattern of conduct that makes it clear he cannot hold the public's trust in enforcing the law. And thankfully he resigned yesterday and he should be barred from ever holding office again. But his ability to access the Flock system to surveil his girlfriend and her ex is the result of a systematic failure of oversight. If the department's policy requires that the officer list the reason for every search, including the case number and law enforcement related purpose for the search, how was it possible that Officer Ayala accessed it 179 times with just the simple phrase, investigation? The advances in technology have given law enforcement incredibly powerful tools for criminal investigations that, as shown in this example, are also ripe for abuse. While it is the duty of each officer to uphold their oath to support the Constitution and abide by the law and department policies, it is the duty of the organization's leadership to create safeguards against such egregious misconduct that violates the civil liberties to which all Americans are entitled. Perhaps the most disturbing fact is that the department didn't catch this. One of the victims did, by using the website haveibeenflocked.com, which posts audit logs from Flock obtained through FOIA requests. Officer Ayala's conduct alone should have been grounds enough to ban him from accessing such a database. But clearly, there is no review of the searches being made by the department's leadership to ensure the officers aren't violating the Fourth Amendment with unreasonable searches. Policies without enforcement are merely suggestions, and MPD must do better to safeguard our constitutional rights. There is no reason access to Flock data should be available without a review of the request by someone in the department or the DA's office to ensure the officer is accessing the information with legitimate law enforcement purposes. Officer Ayala is a bad actor who exploited a system that had no guardrails in place. This commission should demand a full audit of all Flock requests to ensure there is not a broader pattern of abuse and ensure that systematic controls are in place to protect the people of Milwaukee from such unreasonable searches in violation of their Fourth Amendment rights. Thank you for your time.
Table 4 for LaFond.
Can somebody else go first? I like just got started.
waiting longer.
Amy Donahue.
Hi, okay, can you hear me? Yep.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, thanks for having me. I'll be pretty quick as well. I'm Amy Donahue. I live in the River West neighborhood. Like many folks who will be testifying tonight, I just want to add my voice to support of the audit and making the strongest recommendations you possibly can against flock and surveillance by public safety in our city. One thing that I've been kind of sitting here trying to figure out is what the FPC's role is in kind of pushing things to go in other directions. So I just want to encourage you, just looking at these numbers, the amount of money and resources that are wasted and like actually harming people in our community, and maybe finding ways that the FPC can make recommendations about better uses of money, right? If there's things that we can do towards behavioral health and the root causes of things, and make recommendations, specific recommendations for the city council to use that money in other ways from your auspices of the Fire and Police Commission. Yeah, again, I've been here before, I've seen you all before. Thank you for taking the time, and yeah, we don't want surveillance and don't want this money to be used in these ways. Thank you.
Kaylin Arlt, sorry.
My name is Kaylin, and I am here once again to express my distrust in the Milwaukee Police Department. Given MPD's history, we cannot trust them to enact real accountability on officers violating the law. I am disgusted after hearing about Officer Ayala's abuse on the flock cameras to track someone he was dating and that person's ex. Officer Ayala was previously disciplined 3 times after internal investigations by the MPD. These consequences, details of which are not public, did not serve as a deterrent, and neither did the 3 investigations he faced while serving as an officer in Glendale. Officer Ayala was accused of groping a woman during a drug-related arrest and using excessive tasering on another individual in a separate arrest. Especially damning, however, is the fact that Ayala was finally placed on the Brady list after his recent abuses were discovered. He should have been placed on the list long ago, after it was noted by a federal public defender that he had a compulsion to exaggerate details in his testimony. Any of Officer Ayala's examples of misconduct and illegal behavior should have landed him on this list, but it didn't. Because the system is built to defend itself and not to seek justice. There is a coordinated effort by MPD to protect its own before protecting the public. And this is only one of the examples that we know of. How many more Josue Ayalas are in the MPD? How many more abuse cases need to pop up before MPD realizes how intrusive and violating this technology is? We need accountability, we need to feel safe, and mass surveillance is not how we achieve that. We urge you to cancel the contract with Flock, remove all the cameras, and issue a ban on ALPR technology. Thank you.
And for members of the public, I did want to just point out that Flock or Alper is a subject that the FPC is already planning to audit this year as part of our 2026 audit plan. The next individual is Mackenzie Arnold.
I'm here as a concerned resident of Milwaukee demanding the city be de-flocked, as has been stated already. There are significant concerns around the surveillance technology and its frequent misuse and abuse by law enforcement. Today, I'm asking you, will the data from the flock cameras be accessible to the public?
In the city of Everett, Washington, a resident submitted a perfectly legal open records request for the data from their flock cameras, seeking to understand what data is being collected. In response to this, the city decided to turn off their flock cameras altogether, with a judge setting the precedent and ruling that the data constitutes as public record. To be clear, the city of Everett chose to shut the cameras down, citing concerns that access to these files could fall into the wrong hands as public record. But there's no such thing as the right hands when it comes to this much data that allows people to be tracked. The only abusers of this technology have been law enforcement. We, the public, have seen numerous cases of abuse of this technology at the hands of police officers. Officer Ayala's personal use of the Milwaukee flock cameras to stalk the person he's dating and their ex is just another example of the surveillance technology falling into the wrong hands. So if we're concerned about hypothetical abuses by the public, then we should be significantly more concerned about the numerous proven abuses by law enforcement. Thanks for your time.
Caleb Ward.
My concern earlier was that I wanted folks who got in the comment stack first to be able to comment first, so I don't know if you can flip it over or something. So I'm a therapist. I am also a survivor of domestic violence. I live at 5002 North 55th Street, Milwaukee. My name is Kay Lavon. Abusive police officers have more access to weapons, surveillance, reputation, and importantly, narrative control. They show up to domestic violence calls first, they control the scene, and they write the initial report. This means leaving officer abusers is exceedingly more difficult than leaving civilian abusers. This is such a widespread problem that there are entire organizations, foundations, and networks dedicated specifically to helping people escape officer-involved abuse. Despite their pain and suffering, you are considering the expansion of systems that can answer questions like, where is her car? Where does she sleep? Who is she visiting? Survivors already change routines, jobs, schools, and child exchanges. Do we want them to have to automatically leave the county as well? We don't have to imagine the risk of surveillance abuse. We have already seen it happen locally on repeat. That's the statistically predictable outcome. Research consistently finds higher rates of physical aggression in law enforcement families, somewhere between 20 and 40%. Who knows where Milwaukee falls on that scale? Who knows how many officers think to themselves, I'm not abusive, I'd never hit a woman, but would justify abuse of these tools? Who knows how many even think, I'd never weaponize surveillance, but when faced with the reality of their power and their feelings, would still find a way to justify it, perhaps claiming safety concerns for themselves or their former partner. Abusers already cite safety concerns to get survivors locked up, ripped from their children, and forced into psychiatric treatment every single day. They will abuse flock while saying it's about safety. In actual work with perpetrators and survivors of domestic violence, stalking and monitoring are treated as high-risk indicators because they're about entitlement and escalation. Abusive police officers will not magically keep it out of the workplace, although that shouldn't be good enough for you. Supporting flock means adding a futuristic dystopian layer to the waking nightmare that officer-involved abuse survivors are already living. Don't do it. If you care about survivors, please reject any and all use of automatic license plate readers and insist that the Common Council should have budget authority over flock spending and increases. Thank you.
Zoe Gonzalez. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Zoe Gonzalez. I'm part of the Milwaukee Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. Thank you for having us all today. I'm here to show support of more definitive and clear rules regarding police chases where the police are to adhere to a standard operating procedures where they are not to conduct chases except for in extreme life-threatening situations, and be clear and more steadfast in informing the public of the procedures and data and use of our money and their resources. not just in regards to police chases, but many other situations when we give MPD or any law enforcement entity more relaxed rules and less oversight, more lives are endangered. We should not allow the police to police themselves when there are countless examples where they choose to act against the public rather than protect it. These chases affect the people in pursuit, causing death and injury, the sense of safety in neighborhoods they occur in, people's trust in the system that they've been told that they are there to protect them, and families that have been affected by injury and death of the people in pursuit. Many say that the solution should be flock technology, and I'd also like to voice my disapproval of the use of it, as many here have noted today. It will undoubtedly be used for the wrong things and result in just another way for law enforcement to act on their racial prejudices, and as an example set by ALA, using it for their own personal agenda and further affecting the safety of the community.
Stevie?
I think they're in the hallway. Probably coming.
Good evening.
I want to discuss some security concerns regarding Flock's ALPRs. If cops like Ayala don't prove that mass surveillance is a public safety threat, the security vulnerabilities do. To start, the cameras are easily hackable. Researcher John Gaines discovered that by pressing a button on the back of a Flock safety camera in a specific sequence, a wireless access point can be created, effectively hacking the device in under 30 seconds. In 2025, he published a paper analyzing 3 Flock devices, including license plate readers, and found that the devices had no mandatory 2-factor authentication, unencrypted credentials, and operated on outdated operating systems that are no longer supported. In a conventional penetration test, these findings would be classified as high or critical due to the inherent risk of unpatched vulnerabilities within the system. Various professionals have identified similar vulnerabilities and shared this with Flock as a warning, but the company has repeatedly refused to acknowledge the claims. Gaines has over a decade of experience in cybersecurity. Most people wouldn't know how to hack a Flock device even with the code he provides in his paper. But thanks to Flock's cybersecurity malpractice, you don't even need to be a hacker to expose their data. A YouTuber, Ben Jordan, was also able to use a commercial search engine to access Flock administrative interfaces and view the raw footage as if it were Netflix for stalkers. He was able to see footage from over 70 Flock safety cameras as individuals went about their daily lives on bike paths, sidewalks, park trails, and children's playgrounds. None of the data was encrypted, and there was no username or password required. I thought that was bad, but it actually gets worse. An accidental data leak revealed that Flock outsources overseas gig workers in the Philippines to review and classify footage from over 80,000 Flock cameras. These workers are paid low wages and operate without background checks or security clearances. The process, known as data annotation, trains Flock's AI to detect license plates, vehicle types, clothing, and potentially demographic traits like race, raising serious privacy and ethical concerns. So not only is Flock putting millions of Americans' personal information at risk, it's shipping that data overseas to train its AI models at a low price by exploiting workers. After Gaines came out with his research, 2 lawmakers, Senator Ron Wyden and Rep. Raja Krishnamurthy, called for a federal investigation associated with the national security risk of Flock safety and its devices. They alleged that Flock has been negligently handling Americans' personal data by failing to use cybersecurity best practices. The month prior, Wyden wrote a letter to the Flock CEO, Garrett Langley, alleging that Flock security failures meant that abuse of Flock cameras is inevitable, and that they threat to expose billions of people's harvested data should a catastrophic breach occur. Wyden also wrote, "In my view, local elected officials can best protect their constituents from the inevitable abuses of Flock cameras by removing Flock from their communities. So I'm urging all FPC members to do the same and act within their full capacity to dismantle these devices and ban similar ALPR in Milwaukee before the technology is inevitably abused again." And speaking of Netflix for stalkers, I'd also like to point out that in Milwaukee's 2023 to 2027 buying plan, it cites that Milwaukee Police Department wants to spend $125,000 on Axon's Fusus software. Like Flock, Axon is another ALPR dealer, but they also sell other surveillance technology and software like Fusus. Fusus is a real-time intelligence platform designed to integrate and unify live video and data feeds from diverse sources such as body-worn cameras, in-car cameras, drones, license plate readers, and private and public surveillance systems into a single actionable view for public safety agencies. We do not want invasive software like Fusus in Milwaukee, especially considering the misuse and abuse cases of the current tech that we've seen that has been used for stalking. Many cities that canceled Flock turned around and signed contracts with Axon for similar ALPRs to replace them. Any and all ALPRs must be banned along with the other invasive tools.
Ashley, and I'm not sure the last name is difficult to read, starts with a D.
She's in the hall.
Dodger, perhaps?
She's coming.
Okay. Good evening.
Hello, I'm Ashley. I'm a resident of Milwaukee, and I'm here to speak against the use of Flock cameras because this is not actual safety. This level of surveillance is a tool of fascism that can be used to target specific individuals for any number of reasons, mostly vindictive and personal, and not actually for solving crime. Why are we inviting this unnecessary tech into our community? I have an open mind, but an open mind for progress and safety, not for this creepy, unnatural surveillance. There is a pattern with policemen, and the stats show it. These abuses have happened before and will happen again, and worse, I must assume. This technology is nefarious and unjust, and people are waking up, and the fight against this will never end. The dismissive response that Flock isn't going anywhere from our police chief is just unfair. When he goes to an apartheid country to train with literal terrorists, why are we taking direction from this person at all? He should be fired. Do the police think that they are above us? Do the police want peace? Do they want to work with their community? I feel sick over this paranoid and fear-based world we live in. We want peace and safety in our city, and these for-profit technologies will never keep us safe. Please care about the community and work with us and see us as the humans that we are. Thank you.
Corey Thomasek.
I think he's also in the hall.
I'm calling for MPE to cancel contracts with Flock, to remove all Flock technology from the city, and to put a ban on any ALPR technology. This Flock is not the only company that provides these services. This technology is dangerous to the residents of the city. Locally, regardless of any SOP or guardrail, it's prone to abuse and misuse, as shown by the case with ex-officer Ayala. At a federal level, with the current fascist regime, this put our migrant and marginalized groups at risk. It's also scary the parallels of surveillance in the U.S. to that which Israel has used in their genocide in Palestine. And there's so much more to say about this technology, but I want to focus on Flock, the company itself. Flock is a nefarious company that pushes to get its foot in the door with ALPR contracts. With the initial contracts, they present a product that is limited under the guise that ALPRs do not provide live video monitoring, which will be better received and more likely for a contract to be approved. Once the initial contract is approved, Flock then pushes upgrades that do provide live video and can convert existing non-Flock IP cameras to operate on Flock OS amongst their other technologies. They do this all the while guiding police departments in navigating around council approvals when possible, either when they're aware of an approval is not needed or by suggesting upgrades whose costs fall under specific approval thresholds. This point holds true here in Milwaukee, where the budget for the Flock contract was increased by $82,000 up to $180,000, which was not approved by Common Council. Renewal of the contract does not need Common Council approval, as our institutions and laws are right now, and an alderman even recently expressed concerns about this at a budget and personnel committee meeting. That's not the only thing Flock guides police departments on either. Flock coaches police on denying record requests and inserts itself legally into that process. A document provided by Flock themselves titled Guide to Flock Safety Data for Open Records Law, recently updated in 2025, so it's an active document, specifically points at FOIA requests and outlines how government agencies can avoid providing requested information. Additionally, in some of its contracts, it creates a duty for customers to notify Flock and to delay open record responses when public record requests are submitted. There is wording specifically in the Grafton, Wisconsin contract stating Flock requires reasonable prior notice. Flock is purposefully providing legally questionable guidance on avoiding transparency, which is the opposite of what MPE claims to want to provide. Finally, once these technologies are installed, they are hard to get rid of. Last year, in Verona, Wisconsin, City Council voted to end its contract with Flock after community concerns were raised over the company's data sharing with federal law enforcement. Instead of dismissing the public's legitimate concerns, the City Council listened and acted, but the cameras are still there months after the contract was ended, because Flock is dragging its feet to remove them. This delay prompted the city officials to cover up the cameras to prevent them from collecting more data from the city. This is an example of how hard it can be to roll back the surveillance apparatus after it's already been implemented, a task made all the more difficult when the company is uncooperative and doesn't respect local governments. There's so much more information to share about Flock, but time is limited, so I'll wrap it up. My statement was focused on Flock, but other companies are touting the same technology and are surely behaving in a similar manner, much like Axon. So again, I'm calling for MPD to cancel ALPR contracts with any company, to remove any of this ALPR technology from the city, and to ban it in future uses.
Hi, my name is Aurelia Seha, Milwaukee resident and member of the Milwaukee Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. In reference to the SOP on vehicle pursuits, what exactly constitutes about to commit a violent felony? Vague language and officer discretion leads to profiling and discriminatory practices. I could look at anyone on the street and make any sort of claim about what they might be about to do. This does not make it true. We ask that you strike this sentence from the SOP and adding compliance to SOP 575 for release of all footage of critical incidents. Surely, if a chase is to happen because someone is actively committing a violent felony, it sounds as though this should be considered a critical incident and have to follow SOP 575. Furthermore, the lack of transparency in reports such as a 9-year wait time for pursuit data is nothing short of negligent. There should be routine release of pursuit data, such as monthly or quarterly, specified in the SOP. Thank you.
Rosie G. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Rosie Garcia. I am a resident of the south side of Milwaukee and a member of the Milwaukee Alliance Against Political Repression and the Professional Behavior Analyst. I am here to speak against SOP 660, its ineffectiveness, and to offer personal experience with car chasing. In my daily work, I implement interventions to decrease problematic behavior. These interventions are added, modified, or removed based on strictly based on observable, measurable data, not on perceptions, intuition, preference, or beliefs. When I evaluate a treatment, the first question I ask is there evidence of a positive effect on the client or their environment? As I apply this approach to Milwaukee's pursuit policy, I ask the same questions. I look for direct positive effects. Do these chases actually decrease reckless driving, car thefts, or violent crimes? Is it accomplishing its intended purpose? Or at the very least, does it help residents feel safer? I have researched the research and found no evidence that car chasing has a positive effect on city residents, nor does it decrease crime or increase a sense of safety. On the contrary, there is ample research on its negative effects. Even the 2024 FPC Vehicle Pursuit Report fails to demonstrate that SOP 660 is achieving its intended goals. The report gives information of the pursuits, but it does not show any positive impact on the crimes it claims to target. On a more personal note, we must measure the effects these pursuits have on the community overall. For this, I offer my own personal experience. 2 years ago, I moved to the South Side to care for my nieces and nephews, ages 2, 3, and 4 years old. Every week, or almost every week, I observed at least one police vehicle speeding past my window. After a crash occurred right in front of my doorstep, I became petrified to leave my home. I stopped walking on the sidewalks with my children. I was scared to drive my car because I had to park on the street due to lack of parking space. The anxiety began to affect my daily decisions, and I preferred to stay home rather than expose my children to any accidents. I was lucky enough to have funds to move to a different area, but safety should not be a luxury. Many in my community do not have the opportunity or desire to leave their home, even if they have the same concerns about car chases as I do. And they should not have to live in a constant state of hypervigilance, fear, and anxiety. As a behavior analyst, if an intervention showed no data of success and caused significant harm to the environment, I would be professionally obligated to remove it. There is no evidence that car chasing is effective in reducing reckless driving, violent crimes, or car theft. Again, on the contrary, we have overwhelming evidence of the harm it causes. We need a policy that prioritizes measurable community safety over high-speed, unproven chases. Thank you.
Robin Christensen.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Robin Christensen. I'm a resident of Westtown, and I'm here to De-Flock Milwaukee. That means canceling the contract with Flock, removing all the associated cameras, and issuing a ban on using any automated license plate reading technology, since Flock is not the only ALPR company. Every day I drive by the Milwaukee Secure Detention Facility, and the police presence there is always highly visible and audible. What companies like Flock do is take that level of surveillance found in a towering jail and give it to the police department on a near unthinkable scale across the city, as if the MPD were to send out a car from that jail as I drive past it in the morning to follow not just me, but each and every other car in the city, tailing us all, silent and invisible everywhere we go. Milwaukee has a problem, and it is the fault of AI surveillance technology. We have the news that NPD Officer Josue Ayala abused Flock surveillance technology to stalk multiple people. We've heard about the multiple failures and oversight that prevented his abuse of this supposedly safe technology, but this is not a chance event caused by just one officer. It is a predictable consequence of a system that is designed to be invasive, designed to be unaccountable, that is working as intended by invading the privacy of citizens. At a February committee meeting with local organizations, the MPD and the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office confirmed that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement can access the Flock data collected by our city and the county, regardless of any Milwaukee policy. Milwaukee's policies do not stop the use of Flock data collected in our city by any other departments who have access to use it as they please. To see an example of how far this can reach, take the recent case of the AI company Anthropic, which was threatened by the U.S. Secretary of War to hand over their tech with no restrictions so it could be deployed into an autonomous weapon. The government threatened to blacklist Anthropic, meaning they never get any other business in the U.S. Now take a company like Flock, which already sees itself at war with local communities and disdains anyone trying to limit its reach. We've heard of the ways Flock uses delay tactics, the way they use deceptive sales practices, the way they use insecure technology to get a foothold in a sort of Silicon Valley act first, break things mentality. But the public safety of our citizens should not be subject to this level of experimentation and this insidious reach, which is expanding in Milwaukee. Take the 219 Flock cameras found by the Fox 6 News report in 2023 and the 100 more that were planned at that time. There's the bloated Flock contract that jumped from $100,000 to $180,000 overnight without any council approval. There's the $125,000 that MPD wants to spend on Axon's Fusus technology, which we've heard as an even more dangerous and all-encompassing iteration of this surveillance. Flock has had multiple problems with obtaining proper permits and licenses and has faced multiple lawsuits claiming that the company's ALPR system violates constitutionally protected rights. In 2025, at least 30 localities have either deactivated their Flock cameras or canceled their contracts outright due to concerns backed by the local local police department misuse cases. The Common Council does have power to provide oversight on Flock in Milwaukee. It can give the Finance and Personnel Committee the ability to vote, or it can give the committee the ability to vote on the approval of all sole source contracts. And it can show how to bring real safety to Milwaukeeans by working to De-Flock Milwaukee now. Again, that means canceling the contract with Flock, removing all the associated cameras, and issuing a ban on all automated license plate technology. Thank you for your time.
Ben Slody.
My name is Ben Slowey. I'm a resident here in Milwaukee. I live in River West. I'm also a local reporter here in Milwaukee. And I'm extremely concerned about the implementation of mass surveillance tools like Flock when our society already censors, silences, and punishes the dissenters and the truth tellers while enabling systemic state overreach and patriarchal abuse to continue. Hence, Josue Ayala. What if someone says, does, or publishes something the state or an agent of the state doesn't like? Could such an offense subject that person to unbridled surveillance? We are not far removed from these scenarios when bills like the vaguely worded AB 672, which would have enacted harsher penalties for individuals, quote, acting as an agent of a foreign government or terrorist organization, end quote, were recently considered. And while a bill like AB 446, which would adopt criticism of Israel into the national definition of anti-Semitism, is currently being considered. Coupled with the political climate where these bills are even entertained, the implementation of this technology is a crash course into unfettered techno-fascism. De-Flock Milwaukee, cancel our contract with Flock, remove all the cameras, and issue a ban with all ALPR technology. Thank you.
Evans Perez.
The
De-Flock Milwaukee, cancel the contract with Flock, take all the Flock cameras down, and ban all sorry, I was stuck on the FRT stuff. Ban that too, but ALPR technology. So those are the bans. Police talk about using this for Flock for public safety, but it does not create a more safe community for us. These are cameras. Cameras record things. They do not prevent crime. They do not create safe communities. And so we want things that actually will create safety. There's a lack of transparency. We saw with the lack of transparency in how FRT was used, and now the lack of transparency with Flock. It took the Fox 6 investigation to find where these cameras are. Obviously, lack of transparency how officers are using it, and that's not keeping our community safe. When we did see where the cameras are placed, a lot of times in majority black neighborhoods, low-income neighborhoods, places that are already burdened by over-policing. And it's just another justification for racist and biased police tactics, the use of these Flock cameras. There has been studies, one for sure out of Syracuse University that I know, that showed that ALPR technology misreads the state on a license plate 1 out of 10 times. That's 10% of the time that it's misreading the state. That's not even the documented times that it has misread a number or a letter on the license plate. And so this is leading to people being wrongfully arrested, people being pulled over, them and their kids at gunpoint. That's not creating a safer community. This is creating more danger, more mistrust, more worry and fear within our communities. The more surveillance there is, the more that distrust is created. So, yeah, we ask that the demands of getting rid of these Flock cameras, these tools have been used as under the guise of public safety, but they've been used for the personal benefit and personal power gains of police officers, rather than being used to actually serve the community. And so if we're just going to see misuse and abuse, we don't want them. We want them banned. We want the Flock contract ended, all the cameras taken down, all ALPR technology banned. Thank you.
Charles Velez.
I want to return briefly to the question of automated license plate reader data in federal access. There has been some public reassurance recently that data sharing with federal immigration authorities is limited, but the current written policy does not reflect that assurance. The governing policy, SOP 735, explicitly allows sharing with other law enforcement agencies, including for homeland security purposes. So my first question is straightforward. If the department's state of practice is non-sharing with ICE, as Chief Norman has said in public forums, how is that practice actually enforced when the written policy still permits that sharing? Without a policy change, what exists today does not read as a prohibition, but perhaps a soft expectation. And that leads to a second issue, I believe, which is structural. Even if a policy were adopted tomorrow restricting cooperation, the technology itself creates a vulnerability, as many here have spoken to tonight. ALPR systems allow searches to be run by officers across departments and jurisdictions. Federal agencies do not always need direct contracts with these systems. Across the country, reporting has shown that federal immigration investigators often obtain information by asking local officers to run lookups on their behalf, sometimes formally and sometimes informally. In other words, access does not always come through official agreements. Sometimes it comes through a simple request. And all it takes to break the supposed barrier is one officer somewhere in the network agreeing to run a search. Now, it may be true that these systems maintain logs, but logs are not prevention. They are a record after the fact. And we have already seen locally that misuse of police databases can occur even where there is logging. So the real oversight question I have for you is not simply whether logs exist. It is, how would the commission detect and deter these kinds of informal searches before harm occurs? How frequently are ALPR searches audited? And what triggers review? And how would the commission know if an officer ran a search on behalf of another agency in a way that was inconsistent with local policy, whether that be official policy or the kind of soft policy that I've spoken of? This matters because the Common Council has been considering measures and adopted some measures aimed at preventing collaboration with immigration enforcement. But operationally, ALPR systems represent a structural weak point. Right now, sharing is formally allowed under the existing SOP, and even if that changes, the system still creates that pathway for informal access that may fall outside of what the public believes, because that is what the public has been told is happening. So, the question for oversight is whether the current safeguards match the real capabilities of the technology, and whether they match the promises or public statements that have been made. Because if the policy says one thing, but the system allows something else, then the public assurances we are hearing do not actually describe the reality of how the system can be used. Again, I want to call attention to a circulating fact, FAQ, purported to be from the MPD on this issue of ICE cooperation, and to its assurance in the fact that data will not be shared. That FAQ is irresponsibly far from what the SOP is as it is currently written. My understanding is that MPD members are accountable to written policies, not to whims. So again, SOP 735, I believe, must change if it is to reflect in reality what the department has been saying publicly that its policies are. Thank you.
Dr. Bullis?
Good evening. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to public comment tonight. My name is Arthur Bolus. I'm a resident of the south side of Milwaukee and a member of the Milwaukee Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. I'm here today to talk about NPD's pursuit policy, SOP 660. I appreciate the committee's effort to modify the policy, but after reading the suggested changes, I'm afraid it doesn't do enough to keep us residents safe and hold NPD accountable. Allowing a pursuit when an officer thinks someone is about to commit a felony leaves the door wide open for cops to take advantage of the policy to engage in unnecessary changes and putting the residents of our city at risk. I'm asking for that line to be stricken out. The policy needs to be further amended to have real accountability for incidents resulting from a police pursuit. These cases need to be called what they are, critical incidents, and must adhere to SOP 575, releasing all and any video to families and to the public as outlined in that SOP. I was here last October for MPD's little slideshow presenting data on the pursuits. As far as I could tell, this was the first time that they have made the public data from that previous year available and have yet to release any further data. This is unacceptable, and they must start providing comprehensive statistics on a regular basis. We deserve to know how, why, and how often cops are speeding through our city. I'm also asking for MPD to release the costs stemming from any lawsuits that result from a pursuit. The public deserves to know how much of our tax dollars are being wasted with these chases. And lastly, I'd like to request that agenda item 13 tonight regarding the pursuit policy changes be moved up to after public comment. And since I have a little bit of time, I just want to echo a lot of people here tonight and call for a complete ban on flock and surveillance technology. There's numerous reasons why, many outlined here tonight, and I just want to add that the company Amazon Ring, who is its own surveillance monster, has canceled the partnership with Flock after the public outcry of that Orwellian Super Bowl commercial. So if a company like Ring doesn't want to do business with Flock, I think that kind of emphasizes the danger that it presents. Thank you all again.
Amanda McLean.
What Amazon has on its credit
Good evening. My name is Amanda Merkley. I'm the Advocacy Director for the ACLU of Wisconsin and a Milwaukee resident. How are Milwaukee residents currently surveilled? Flock's automatic license plate reader system, cell site simulators, also known as Stingrays, the Integrated Community Connect surveillance camera network, integrated by Fusus, ShotSpotter, gunshot detection microphones, drones, open source intelligence tools. What else? Many law enforcement agencies across the country purchase data from third-party data brokers as an end run around the Fourth Amendment. Do we do that? Who knows? At the absolute bare minimum, we need a framework for transparency about existing surveillance tech. In many cities, including Milwaukee, decisions to acquire and use surveillance technology are made by police departments in secret without any knowledge or input from the public or elected officials. In response, over the past 10 years, local community control over police surveillance ordinances have been adopted in 26 jurisdictions across the country to provide transparency and democratic accountability. I think it's wild that the Common Council and FTC may not be privy to the answers to some very basic questions about these technologies used to surveil Milwaukee residents, such as how does the technology work? What is the intended purpose of each technology, and after its use, is that still the purpose for which it's being used? What and whose information is being collected, and how is that data stored? If the technology is not uniformly deployed throughout the city, what factors are used to determine where the technology is targeted? For example, if you take the ShotSpotter map and you look at the redlining map, same map, what potential adverse impacts does surveillance technology have on civil rights and liberties? What standards must be met if sharing surveillance data with third parties, whether that's a private third party or another government entity, which is maybe a goofy question if federal agencies already get direct access to the Fusion Center. Public records obtained by the ACLU reveal that Flock Safety's nationwide information sharing network allows external federal, state, and local law enforcement to access sensitive license plate data from dozens of Wisconsin municipalities and counties without a warrant or meaningful oversight. And as folks have mentioned, police departments have also searched informally the database on behalf of the FBI, DHS, and Border Patrol. Flock's surveillance network spans at least 5,000 police departments. Estimates from the National ACLU are closer to 7,000. In Wisconsin, at least 221 Wisconsin law enforcement agencies use Flock, including Milwaukee. And according to an analysis of Flock audit data published by the Wisconsin Examiner detailing searches between January 1st and May 28th, 2025, the MPD and STAC performed the most Flock searches of all Wisconsin law enforcement agencies during that time period, with nearly 40,000 searches originating from MPD alone appearing in network audit data from the Wauwatosa Police Department. Concerningly, the reason for the search investigation was used over 1,000 times and just INV period over 500 times, and that's only within a 5-month period in 2025. If the MPD or Fusion Center are sharing data with Flock's national database, police from the thousands of outside jurisdictions can track Milwaukee residents and those driving in the city for work and entertainment, including immigrants, people seeking health care, elected officials, and other targets of the federal government as long as they drive through our community. Finally, there's a concerning pattern related to the procurement process around surveillance tech across the country, but also here in Milwaukee. Recent Flock contract approvals have all received sole source contract waivers that don't require even Finance and Personnel Committee approval. And it's our understanding that the requirement for single or sole source contracts be approved by the Finance and Personnel Committee under the city charter weren't applied to Flock contract amendments on the grounds that the contract involves services related to proprietary products. MPD's past contract with Fusus, integrating all camera and their surveillance systems, also sole source. MPD's contract with Tactical Support Equipment, Inc. for cell site simulator equipment, also sole source. And in addition, when surveillance tech is donated to MPD from the Milwaukee Police Foundation or other private entities, I have no idea how oversight works. Ultimately, Milwaukee residents should not be surveilled in secret. Thank you.
Could you give me a copy of what you did?
Emilio De Torre.
Good evening. I'm Emilio De Torre, Executive Director of Milwaukee Turner's Turner Hall. I'm glad you were all able to retain some of your power and that you can still determine the salaries of police and fire chiefs. So, on to today's topic. After it came to light last week that MPD officer Josue Ayala used MPD surveillance tech, in this instance, at least he used Flock cameras 179 times to spy on his lover and her ex. The public has almost as many questions and concerns and outrage to this and to other things. I want to say yes to everything that my comrades here have mentioned before. And I think between us, we have hundreds of questions which are unanswered. And I'm here to ask some of these questions in the hopes that FPC can shed some light on this. Essentially, this is a list of questions. How many officers currently have access to Flock? How many officers had access to Flock at the time of Ayala's abuse? And how do we vet and monitor their use? If Ayala was able to use Flock to search for his lover and her ex 179 times, only using the word investigation as the justification, what new protective measures have been put into place since then to prevent this? And can an officer just type the word stuff and have his request go through? It seems so. Has there been a complete audit of all the hundreds of MPD officers who have had access to this surveillance tool, including what they attempted to monitor and the justifications they provided? It appears the victim found out she was being secretly monitored by Officer Ayala through a third-party watchdog site and not through internal police monitoring. So knowing that, what safeguards are being put in place to make monitoring more secure and our privacy more secure? Can the FPC explain how surveillance and location data from Flock cameras are integrated or used in conjunction with surveillance data from social media trackers, cell site simulators, cameras, and all the other surveillance equipment and software that we heard about today and have heard about in the past? In addition to the SOPs that Char and Amanda and others brought up and the other types of surveillance techniques, what are the procedures and protocols for MPD to share with or request information from the federal government via our Fusion Center or our agreements as part of the HIDTA? Now, I noticed that the Department of Justice's high-intensity drug trafficking area, the HIDTA page, hasn't been updated since 2008. And it reminded me how quaint the Obama presidency seems right now. Are we still considered, is Milwaukee still HIDTA? I don't know. What is the nature of our information and surveillance sharing agreements with the federal government as a result of our partnership due to this status? Because it's an entire other way that this information can be shared with the federal government. Does this work separately from our Fusion Center? Either our local Milwaukee Fusion Center or the two statewide Fusion Centers? I don't know. How is all of this information shared interdepartmentally at the Fusion Center? I'm fairly certain that the process has changed dramatically since their inceptions in 2001 and 2005. What rules and safeguards protect us from officers in other jurisdictions from accessing the flock camera data? As we heard, there are at least 7,000 other police departments nationally that use flock, and it appears as though they, as well as ICE, indirectly or directly, can access the surveillance data we collect daily through strawman usage or other means. And what protects us from this and who monitors and audits this on the regular? We really have no idea what oversight is. Finally, and I hate to say this, but we told you so. We said this would happen in this very room. We and the Equal Rights Commission discussed how this would happen, probably happen in their rooms. And we talked about this incident at the Common Council too. And the County Board of Supervisors warned that this was a honeypot of information, the creation of which was begging to be stolen, and they advised against these repositories of non-stop surveillance. Facial recognition tracking, license plate tracking, cell phone tracking, social media tracking. Comically, it appears that Chief Norman discovered this happened with Ayala in December, 7 or 8 months after Ayala was stalking these people. And late as that was to catch this, that also means the chief knew this while we all pushed against the insidious facial recognition technology they were attempting to deploy. Do you know how the public feels understanding that the police knew how surveillance was being abused and exploited while they were fighting to add still more surveillance to monitor us? We told you this would happen and it did. And really, if you don't rein it in, it's going to happen again. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Paul. I'm a part of MARPER, Milwaukee Alliance Against Racism and Political Repression. Back again to speak, third time in a row, fourth time in a row, something like that. I appreciate that this council is putting SOP 660 and the police pursuit policy back on the agenda, and I'm hopeful. But the complete lack of accountability, transparency, broken trust, secret trips, secret trainings, abuse of surveillance technology going over this council and the community by the MPD and its police chief over the past 2 months have eroded what little existing trust that I had in the Milwaukee police system. Only by extensive and immediate community-driven changes to end police vehicle pursuits except in extreme life-threatening situations, deflocking Milwaukee, replacing Chief Norman, and so much more will a path to repair even be possible. In February, MPD pushed change to SOP 660, adding more criteria for pursuits to occur when reckless driving happens. This change did not address the NYU experts or citizens' demands to end police vehicle pursuits except in extreme life-threatening situations, but added more words to say the exact same thing as it always has before, which is to continue to allow pursuits for reckless driving and then to rely on the officer's discretion. History shows that doing this results in more chases, more injuries, more deaths, with no proven prevention of crime or apprehension. With the addition of reckless driving wording in the 2015 SOP pursuits, the number of pursuits increased from around 100 to 300. When the wording broadened in 2017, pursuits exploded from 300 to 1,000 chases a year, around 1,000 chases a year. These chases are dangerous, as stated by MPD in their own SOP 660, so why are we increasing the numbers by 100%, or by 10%? Also, what data is MPD using to justify this lackluster change and the impact of it so far? History shows otherwise, and in 2024, pursuit data was only made available to the public in October 2025. Are we supposed to be taking MPD's word that they have this data and that it's working as expected? Look at how that's turned out so far. Look at why we're all here today. We can't do that. We need MPD to eliminate reckless driving and ambiguous wording from SOP 660, ultimately ending police vehicle pursuits except in extreme life-threatening situations, and then hold MPD to be more transparent by continuously providing public with the data on these dangerous pursuits. I'd also like to echo a lot today about Flock and MPD's abuse of it. The abuses of Flock cameras by Officer Ayala is terrifying. The lack of power of the SOP to prevent or discover this until a citizen reported it is terrifying. and the NPD's complacency to protect this officer over the public is damning. People will say that Ayala was a bad cop and that other good cops won't do this, but how can we trust NPD's word after this case, after MPD didn't place Ayala on the Brady's list after 3 offenses, or when this type of abuse is happening regularly by law enforcement in Wisconsin with multiple cases like Greenfield Police Chief Jay Johnson, Nash Police Officer Christian Morales, and Kenosha Sheriff's Deputy Frank McCarthy. The SOP is not preventing or discovering abuse, and MPD is protecting abusive officers over citizens. The only course of action is to De-Flock Milwaukee. We must cancel contract with Flock, remove all the cameras, and issue a ban on ALPR, as Flock is not the only ALPR company. MPD either cannot or will not protect Milwaukee citizens from its own officers abusing Flock, so this council must do that. We have been shown by MPD that we need community-oriented policing, and this council will be a citizen's voice in public safety now more than ever. We need actual changes to protect citizens, not MPD. Please listen to all who speak and have spoken today and actually make items for change. Thank you.
Ellery extends.
Hello. My name is Ellery. I'm a resident of the Stillborn Town neighborhood. I'm here today to ask the Fire and Police Commission to De-Flock Milwaukee. Cancel our contract with Flock, remove all Flock cameras, and issue a ban on ALPR technology to ensure no Flock competitors, competitor companies like Axum can be collaborated with as well. Flock is not dependable to do the job of reading plates accurately. Across the nation, there are a number of cases where people are pulled over because an ALPR identified their plate as that of a stolen vehicle. In every case, drivers are removed from their vehicle at gunpoint and detained, only for the officers to later realize the mistake made by the ALPR first and compounded by their mistake of not double-checking the plate. Many of the people subjected to wrongful ALPR detentions are filing and winning lawsuits after going through the traumatic and often costly encounters with the police. ALPRs like Flock contribute to negligent law enforcement actions and a dangerous environment of suspicion and fear. To avoid the high financial and social costs of ALPR wrongful detention, the FPC should De-Flock Milwaukee. Thank you.
Tiffany Stark.
Let me get my pages right, so it always screws me up. Okay.
My name is Tiffany Stark. I'm a Milwaukee Alliance member, acute mental, social, and community advocate. Thank you to the FPC that continues to work with us to make these important changes to police policies. I would have been at the last FPC meeting on February 19th, but I was at another FPC meeting. However, I heard SOP 660 would be back on the agenda. By now, everyone should know I was not pleased with the changes MPD made with SOP 660 implemented on February 6th. As we know, vehicle police pursuits do not make the community safer. It actually causes more trauma. I do not know if this recommendation is being made due to the community outcry and or because of the current lawsuit filed on 2/26 in the death of Mari Smith. But I'm glad to see some more changes coming to SOP 660 as we know the new policy implementation on the 6th as it stands would not have saved the lives from 2024 and 2025. Not any in the present as the policy doesn't go as far enough. I have read the recommendations and agree with most of it, but I also have some additional demands to be added. Policy change 660 says vehicle pursuits are justified when the occupants have committed, is committing, or about to commit a violent crime. I propose changing the wording to exclude or is about to commit a violent felony, as this relies on individual officer discretion. Number 2, accountability. We want all police pursuit chases to be treated as critical incidents when injuries and deaths occur in accordance with SOP 575, and any and all videos of the pursuit must be available to the families in 48 hours and the public in 15 days. MPD needs to be more forthcoming with all pursuits. We want data around those dangerous pursuits with MPD to provide monthly, quarterly reports to the public and FPC meetings to include data of total numbers of pursuits, the reason for the pursuit, and the number of accident injuries and deaths. Speaking of data, my daughter's father, Anthony Higgins, who died October 2025 from his injuries from a vehicle police pursuit in June of 2024, has still not been added to the total number of fatalities in 2025. It should be 10 deaths and in 2025, not 9. His life mattered, and I'm requesting MPD finally update their data to reflect this in their reports, providing accurate information. It is very triggering to hear this on the news every single time there's only been 9 deaths. It's traumatizing because his life mattered. I mean, the medical examiner said he passed away due to those injuries. The young boy that I'm conflicted about, that now is being charged for second-degree reckless homicide, so why isn't this data matching up? It's really making me angry. Speaking of lawsuits, which more I'm certain will be coming soon related to the vehicle police pursuits, we want publication of public funds spent on lawsuits, as the public deserves to know how much of the tax dollars will be warranted on MPD's costly police policies. We already know the mayor's view on the police chases, and don't be surprised of pushback by his office. He publicly stated a reckless driving forum in November 2025. You only see the news on the news when there is a negative outcome, but most of these police vehicle pursuits are going just fine. He said, let's rewind 7 years ago, when someone could flip up a cop and run a red light, and they couldn't do nothing. Sorry, this is not an appropriate policy to chase based on your ego being bruised. However, I'm very concerned with Rep. Bob Donovan's recent legislation. He also is behind the push to reenact these vehicle police pursuits, along with the prior MKE President Mike Cabello in 2017, and now pushing for legislation at the state to make it harder for Milwaukee City Common Council to pass police policy with a unanimous vote versus 2/3 vote. We will continue to fight this legislation and will be calling the Milwaukee City elders to vote in change this policy, and hope Chief Norman will do just the right thing and will do the right thing and change this policy once and for all on his own. Because ain't no power like the power of the people, because the power of the people don't stop. And we are going to, and we're not going anywhere. Thank you.
Mohammed. Good evening.
Hello. First, I want to remind everyone that we still need to fully ban FRT, and we need to ban the NIMBY exchanges to prevent our police force from ever training with a genocidal Zionist entity again. I also support calls to ban high-speed police chases. Today, I will speak to an additional demand to De-Flock Milwaukee. This means canceling our contract with Flock Group, removing all the cameras, and issuing a ban on automated license plate readers, because Flock is not the only ALPR company, and all of them are susceptible to these abuses. An MPD officer has finally been caught abusing data from ALPRs. With over 600 officers having access to the tech, Officer Josue Ayala is surely not the only one, but the first to be caught. Or perhaps more accurately, the first the public has been made aware of. MPD boasts that they have strong SOPs to govern the department, but the SOP on ALPRs did not prevent Officer Ayala from abusing it repeatedly, nor did the SOP uncover the abuse. As we've heard, it was actually one of the victims who discovered the abuse by using haveibeentflocked.com, a website I have also used. I held my breath while searching my license plate on the site, worried that officers I've alienated by speaking out here at the FPC may be tracking me. Ayala's victim input his license plate into the site and saw it was searched 55 times by Officer Ayala. He then filed a complaint with the MPD, the victim did. So it's worth repeating, MPD's policies did not prevent these abuses from happening, nor did they catch the abuses. A report by the Wisconsin Examiner revealed that a consequential number of searches done in the Flock system in Wisconsin had vague reasons listed, like investigation, or no reasons at all. This doesn't allow for a serious audit to occur on the searches and opens the door to abuses. How will this impact the FPC's upcoming audit? It doesn't matter what an SOP determines is necessary. What matters is what officers are willing and able to do. A case study takes us to Austin, Texas, a city known to have implemented one of the most restrictive ALPR programs in the country, and it still failed. Austin is also the city that rejected Chief Norman's application to be their police chief. Anyway, an audit of the Austin Police Department's program revealed that over 20% of ALPR database searches lacked proper documentation or justification, in violation of department policy. The audit also revealed contract language allowed for data retention beyond council-mandated limits on retention and potential sharing with outside agencies. This demonstrates that even the most restrictive guardrails are meaningless without compliance, and failure to comply here is a risk to public safety and to our rights. Even if a police department has an airtight SOP in place, the data is accessible to other jurisdictions who do not have an obligation to follow local policy or have weak policies of their own. Flock Group's own guardrails are a joke, and the company tries to pass the buck of responsibility with its continued appeal to local policies. This means nothing when Flock's data sharing network does not account for how law enforcement governance varies by jurisdiction. Some communities may have a good relationship with their local police who solicit their input on what policy should look like. We do not. But no one has the same relationship with hundreds or thousands of other agencies who can access that local PD's data. It's hard enough to hold officers accountable in our own cities. Now imagine if an officer on the other side of the country violates our privacy. It'd be even more difficult to hold them accountable. I was here the night MPD lied about no longer borrowing FRT, when it was revealed that MPD had been lying. We were all outraged, and it led to you, commissioners, deciding to prepare a recommendation or a directive on FRT, which I expect you're still following through on. If you are outraged about FRT, you should also be outraged about ALPRs. The vulnerabilities and the lack of complete control over the data means any outside law enforcement agency with FRT capabilities can take our Flock data and run it through their FRT software. If we don't want MPD using FRT on residents, we shouldn't enable any law enforcement agency to do that to our residents. That means eliminating the possibility outright, because we must not trust the protection of our civil rights and liberties to those who violate them the most often, law enforcement agents. Many of us have been emailing the Common Council about de-flocking Milwaukee, and there is support among the alders. An FPC recommendation to ban the use of ALPRs would reach open ears and willing minds. And I must point out that not a single comment here today has been in favor of Flock. Lastly, I have to comment on how today's meeting was moved up from 5:30 to 5 p.m. start time. This is at least the second time this year, and both times have been when Milwaukee for Palestine and other organizations have called for mass mobilization to a meeting. As a member of the public, this feels like an undemocratic ploy to silence our voices by making us miss the opportunity for public comment. And I'd like to know if you have an explanation to share with the public for the reason for this.
I do. It was not moved. The meeting time was always 5 o'clock for this meeting. It was never moved up or changed. There have been times in the past, historically, when regular meetings start at 5:30. Lately, for the last few months at least, we've been starting at 4:30, unless there is an executive session, and depending on how long the executive session is expected to last, the regular meeting starts immediately thereafter. So it could be 4:30 or after that, depending on the executive session. But the meeting times are always provided in the notice, which we try to publish approximately a week before the meeting.
I would recommend some kind of
You are
notification
at
system.
time.
Yep, so that the public doesn't have to keep double checking the agendas for meeting times.
Diego Garcia. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Diego Garcia, member of the Milwaukee Alliance, and I just want to draw attention to the weakness of the current wording of SOP 660, which essentially states that an officer can choose to start a chase if they believe a violent felony is going to occur, which, frankly, if I had a dime for every time myself, my comrades, or my friends, have had that perceived about them, I'd be a very wealthy man. That does not restore any sort of faith, in the police department here. as they do not have a great track record, especially with people, brown and black folks. As I mentioned last session, faith with MPD is an all-time low, whether it's the chief going on a trip to Israel, whether, he admits, that, they have been using FRT, or the fact that an officer, one that we know of, is using Flock for personal use, which is straight up disgusting if you ask me. I firmly believe, that faith between the community and the city can be amended by making and enforcing policies that hold the MPD to a transparent and accountable standard, to the community it polices. The current wording of 660 does not do that. And so what the Milwaukee Alliance demands is to have a stricter policy around the car chases, so there's no level of ambiguity, so it's clear cut, right? All video related to these vehicular incidents, which these are critical incidents, guys. People, that I know, even outside my comrades, have been affected by it and have PTSD as a result of it. And also, the MPD should be, reporting this data on these car chases on a regular basis, not, months or years after the fact. And just as outside of, the Milwaukee Alliance's demands, I want to express the strongest of unity, to De-Flock Milwaukee. And additionally, I'm very uncomfortable by that officer, using Flock for personal use. So the best way I think, or I believe that a community can know, if they've been flocked or not, or how the MPD's been using it, is if there's just a full-scale audit of every time, it's been accessed, right, by a member of the Milwaukee Police Department. And I'm gonna end on just a request for you guys here, that Arthur shared, is that I'm just requesting that any sort of, talks about the standard operating procedure just be moved up on the agenda. I understand there's a lot of people either receiving promotions, transfers, or whatever else, but I could safely, assume that everybody's here for standard operating procedures. So if you guys could do that, that would be really great. Thank you.
Angela Lang.
Good evening. I want to say my name is Angela Lang, and I am one of the co-executive directors of De-Flock, Black Leaders Organizing for Communities. I'm here to talk yet again about concerns with increased surveillance technology. I've come before you in the past speaking against facial recognition technology and talked about the dangers of increased surveillance, harassment, and racial profiling. As Mr. DeTore said, we told you this would happen. While the police chief announced a ban on acquiring additional FRT for now, the whole time, Flock cameras had been abused. Last week, it was reported that now former Officer Ayala used the technology over and over and over again to stalk and harass someone he was dating. Where's the protect and serve mentality for when this is what cops use their position for? We know there's also been other instances across the country of misuse with this technology, and I'm here with so many others to say De-Flock Milwaukee. This technology has proven to be only abused, and there could be more instances that we unfortunately don't even know about. There needs to be an audit, and I know you mentioned that there will be an audit. There needs to be transparency in its findings with the community. MPD has proven time and time again that they don't keep us safe. They should not continue to get a dime for new toys to play with that are funded through our tax dollars to oppress, stalk, and harass the same community that they swore to protect. I also echo the sentiments of everyone else here about police chases. Police chases do not keep our community safe. Thank you.
Hunter Valley.
Good evening. I'm Hunter Rayleigh. I live in the 3rd Automatic District. I've been to these meetings 3 or 4 times before, talking about facial recognition technology and how I didn't trust it. I'm here again to talk about flawed technology and how I don't trust the technology. I don't trust our police department to use the technology. I don't trust our city council to do something about our police department using this technology. I don't trust you during your 2026 audit of FLOG to adequately examine and be proactive about this issue. Now, I understand that a lot of you guys do care about these issues. There's a reason why you're here, like 6:30, and there's a reason you go to the other meetings, you're there till like 11 or 12. I know you care, but we simply don't have the evidence and track record to trust that you'll do something. And the same thing goes with the operating procedure for the police chases. You should have been on this already. Like, this is a known issue. It's been an issue for decades. And yet here we are again, having to voice our concern when you should already be doing this. Now, I have faith that you'll do your best, and I have hope that you'll follow through on what you're probably going to tell us you're going to do. That's all.
Asia Johnson. Good evening.
Good evening. So, this is my first FPC meeting. Hi, I'm Ajax. And I guess I'm just kind of baffled. I've been doing a lot of thinking recently, just on this whole American experiment that we have, this idea that we came up with of a liberal government of the people, for the people, by the people. And I think that it's a really great day when a room can be this full. But I think it's also a really bad day when a room can be this full. And I'm just thinking of all of the things that have come up today. And I mean, like, it was mentioned with FLOG that there's action being taken. I clearly don't think there's enough action if we've got this many people in the room. I mean, we've got death as a response to a high-speed pursuit that's not being recorded. I mean, the number should be 0, but if there's 10, there should be 10. And I just don't get it. And I know to the best of my ability just about like the regulatory, just like the constitutional power that this commission has, and the way that Milwaukee Police Department self-determination has just been strangled throughout time. But I really feel like maybe we're just not trying hard enough. And I guess I just don't know. I mean, I could just go on and on and on and on with statistics, or I could go on and on and on with allegories or whatever. But I mean, I just really think that, like, there's got to be something, right? Like, legitimately. I mean, we're spending all this money on lawsuits. We're going to continue spending all this money on lawsuits. And we know we're going to spend all this money on lawsuits. Meanwhile, I mean, we've got a war on the floor. We're towing cars for the sake of being able to meet the city budget, when instead we could just stop spending city money on bailing out people who are breaking the rules. And I'm not anti-law enforcement. If I have a situation at my home where my safety's at risk, I'm going to call law enforcement. But the more we go through these cycles of this room gets filled up. It goes into the press. We all know that it's going to go into the press. People read that. People who don't have the capacity or maybe the knowledge to make it into this room, but do have the feeling to think, like, before they call 911, do I want to do this? Is calling 911 safe for my neighborhood? Is calling 911 safe for me? And then, you know, on the conversation about justice, sure, maybe these license plates would mostly inaccurately, but sometimes accurately help us catch violent criminals. Well, guess what? If there is not the faith in this commission, if there's not the faith in our police department, if there's not the faith in our city government to do its job, which it's consistently failed to do, that includes us, then that's not going to comply. I mean, after arrests, there's trials, right? If we've got people who aren't willing to testify, they're not willing to testify. If you've got situations in which we've got the wrong person, we've got the wrong person, the right person's still out there. So I just literally cannot comprehend, like, why these chases are going on, why the flock cameras are still out there. We know that they don't, we know that they don't do the thing, you know? So I don't know, there's been so much brilliant insight shared, and I do appreciate that our city has, the folks who couldn't make it and all of you who could, people who are willing to come out, and people who are willing to listen, and people who are willing to take notes. I've seen which of you have more and which of you haven't, and willing to go home and think about this and swallow this and come back and make your best recommendations for the city. But I do think that part of all across Wisconsin, what we're seeing is a little bit of a learned helplessness. As the state legislature continues to take away local power and continues to take away individual freedoms, not just to free speech, but to freedoms like surveillance or Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment rights, I think that we've got a mandate to do better. I think we've got a mandate to meet them halfway, and I think we've got a mandate to fight like hell. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Verdeen.
Good evening. Who can you trust? Not always. Who can you trust? Not always. That's the slogan that was born out of the movement to have justice for Derek Williams, who died in the backseat of the car begging for his life, begging for 6 minutes and didn't get any justice. I'm with the Milwaukee Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. Actually, I'm very encouraged and quite enlightened by all of the research that the wonderful young people have done here today. My goodness. So thank you for all of you that have done the hard work and the research. I'm in full support of doing away with 660 as it currently exists. I'm full support of Sister Bree Spencer's amendments to such chase operating procedures. And as been mentioned by the Milwaukee Alliance members, we do want video recordings of any incidents that become of a critical nature. I'm sitting here also in fully support of de-flocking our city. Thank you for all of you sisters and brothers that came out here with that important information. I didn't realize how flocked we were in Milwaukee. I knew we were flocked, believe me. I've been here all my life. We're a flocked bunch of people for sure. But again, thank you for all of the wonderful research. We need to do away with that. And by the way, while I was doing some of my own research in the back, there is a spray that we can get. You spray it on your license plate, and I guess it somehow doesn't allow the cameras to see your plate. So that's something, it's called photo blocker spray. So that's something we might want to consider. We can bring those to the next meeting. We'll bring our photo blocker spray. We can all spray each other's car after the meeting. And by the way, thank you, Sister Spencer. This is the kind of initiative we've kind of been waiting on. And I've been scratching my head. I can't remember the last time that the Fire Police Commission actually took the leadership on and helping us shape policy. So this is very refreshing. So please continue to help us shape policy that's for the people and not the police. And by the way, I noticed that Chief Norman is digging his heels in, you know, he's really big on technology, I'm gonna use technology. And so as he digs his heels in, I got a feeling he's gonna be against us having anything more better than what he already come up with for safe policies. And I got a feeling he's certainly for us being flocked. But so keep in mind with the dozens and dozens of people that I've witnessed in the last few meetings, you'll have our full support in getting our city De-Flocked. We'll fill up the chambers of City Hall, and we'll certainly come up with a better chase policy than we have now. It'd better to have no chase policy. And lastly, well, actually, I have two lastly. I have a question and then a lastly. My question is, how do we get it on the agenda? We want a full account of Chief Norman's trip to Israel. We want a full account of that. So my question is, do I need to write a letter to get a full account? Because siding with genocide still does not sit well with me at all. Right. And of course, our dear mayor also hosted 4 mayors from Israel last year as well. Just really poor judgment on behalf of our leaders. But lastly, we still want you to sue the state and get rid of Act 12. Got a brilliant lawyer here on your left, Sister Horowitz, and we got a brilliant lawyer up there in City Hall. Let's do away with State 12. It's prejudiced, it's racist. The only city in the state that has been flocked like this. And so keep in mind, we got your back and you got our back.
Stephanie Connors.
Hi.
Hello, good evening.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to all my comments. Very important comments. Okay, so obviously I'm here speaking against de-flocking, in favor of de-flocking Milwaukee. We have to make decisions based on the evidence that we have, and we have the evidence. If the harm outweighs the benefits, it is not the correct path forward. In terms of any possible benefits, statistics show that flock cameras are not actually as effective against crime as touted, primarily by flock itself. In terms of harm, as we have heard and will continue to hear, the abuses are rampant and the potential kind of abuses that are possible are endlessly vast. The data acquired by ALPR and flock cameras is not safe from general public access, period. No SOP can stop that, and backdoor deals and access are always in practice, as you know, and we have myriad evidence of. Something made even more terrifying while we live under a fascist government we are watching use every tool in its power and outside of its power to oppress, kidnap, and kill American citizens. The evolution of this technology itself is moving at an insanely rapid pace that we do not have the protections necessary to stop the abuse of, period. Which means it is inherently harmful to the safety of our communities. It is not, as it is glorified by those pushing for it, a neutral crime-fighting justice tool. And one thing that I think is so critical to call attention to in this conversation is that once we, and this is so important to me, because this is how time and making these things happen works. So, once we have the physical equipment in place, it's just a smooth, slippery slope to increase the technology without checks. And that really is terrifying to me. So we already have 231 flock cameras and a budget recently increased to $180,000 without external approval because it was not required, which is not shocking, but that's the route we took. And a police chief who is all too eager to embrace this technology despite critical concerns and public outcry. And so increasing to this kind of a contract, which I'll get to, is exactly the kind of thing that could be put in place overnight. So I just want to read an email that was obtained from an employee, I'm guessing a salesperson. Literally, the title of the email is "Add live video to your LPR $500." That's it. Like a discount deal commercial coming into your inbox, except it's the PD. And it says, and it's from Kevin Cutler, beautiful Kevin Cutler, from Flock Safety. Okay. Which is also just inherently oxymoronical to have Flock and Safety as the email address that you're sending from. But yes, Okay, it says, gentlemen, hope you're doing great, exclamation point. I think I failed to mention this upgrade that we have available. It's definitely something you can take advantage of without going to council as well. So like, this company is already primed to say, here's how you can supersede the preventions that are in place, the governmental bodies that you have to be responsive to. That's laced into how they are pitching this. Without going to council as well, you can set the live video camera to view the roadway or have it facing in an adjacent manner to cover other areas needed on the same pole. It goes on to say, it says, here's the short version. We've been adding live video to existing LPRs as part of a bundled solution and are seeing strong results. Boop, 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 3 strong results. You might be thinking, isn't that already possible? I love this language, it's like a whole ad pitch. Isn't that already possible? It is, but what's new is the pricing. You can now upgrade your existing LPRs for just $500 a year and a one-time $150 install fee. We can also do this on all new LPR cameras moving forward. It's an easy, low-cost way to increase the value and coverage of your current camera network. And I'd love to set up a quick meeting to get your feedback on how your team would use this. Plus, if it makes sense, review your locations and identify where we can bring the most value right away. So like, increasing the technology that is in these cameras is just the easiest thing to do to make a deal and make happen. And as we know, this body does not have the powers that it should have in place in order to be able to stop that the way that it should, on its face. So, and this is where I got to less, not structured in the end of my comment, but the police chief just issued a moratorium on FRT, and the same thing should be issued on the further purchasing of these cameras until we figure out how we are actually going to protect this community from the abuse and the violence that results from that. That's it. Thank you.
Leanna Henderson?
Yeah, she's coming from the hallway.
While we're waiting for her, Israel Webb?
Good evening. Personally, I've noticed an improved effort with the new MPD and Sheriff's Department. My issue is with the people who sit on boards and courtroom and detectives and everything. Because even if a police officer does do everything to the letter correctly, follow protocol and procedure, things seem to go wrong. We had an issue not that long ago where there was courtroom officials and people associated with law enforcement and other entities involved in law enforcement and Department of Corrections, involved in lewd acts and inappropriate behavior, and then evidence getting tampered with and everything like that. So it's this creates an issue too, even when the police officer goes out there and puts his life on the line, and then there's a stigma of people in a more comfortable situation making a mess. So now that creates more distrust with people. So I just want to bring that to attention. That is all.
Thank you. Rihanna Henderson?
Rihanna.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Rihanna Henderson. I'm with Reproductive Justice Action Milwaukee. Like many other people here tonight, I was extremely disturbed to hear about Officer Ayala's misuse and abuse of Flock camera systems, but not surprised, as this was completely predictable. There are a growing number of cases of government overreach enabled by Flock. Especially alarming is Texas law enforcement's use of a nationwide Flock database to follow a woman suspected of self-managing an abortion. Documents and court records obtained by Electronic Frontier Foundation shows that Texas deputies queried Flock safety surveillance data in an abortion investigation, contradicting the narrative promoted by Flock and the Johnson County Sheriff that she was being searched for as a missing person and it was about her safety. But an investigation revealed that the Johnson County Sheriff's Office actually conducted a nationwide search of more than 83,000 Flock ALPR cameras, giving the reason
in the search log had an abortion, search for female. The searches in this case may have violated laws in states like Washington and Illinois, where restrictions exist specifically to prevent this kind of surveillance overreach, but those protections mean nothing when a Texas deputy can access a camera in those states with a few keystrokes without external review that the search is legal and legitimate under local law. Nevertheless, when the subject showed up at the sheriff's office a week later, officers were under the impression that she came to tell her side of the story about the non-viable fetus. They interviewed her, inspected her text messages about the abortion on her phone, and watched her write a timeline of events. Only after all that did they learn that she actually wanted to report a violent assault by her partner, the same individual who called the police to report her abortion. She alleged that less than an hour after the abortion, he choked her, put a gun to her head, and made her beg for her life. In addition, the sheriff that conducted the search has since been arrested and indicted on felony counts in an unrelated sexual harassment and whistleblower retaliation case. Every time. Right? He has also been charged with aggravated perjury for allegedly lying to the grand jury. And Flock continues to lie about this to this day. On their website, they have a story that they helped a missing woman, asserting that journalists and advocates covering the story intentionally misrepresented the facts, describing it as misreporting and clickbait driven. This case reveals the fundamental danger of allowing companies like Flock Safety to build massive interconnected surveillance networks that can be searched across state lines with minimal oversight. When a single search query can access more than 83,000 cameras spanning almost the entire country, the potential for abuse is staggering, particularly when weaponized against police seeking reproductive health care. I am asking you, De-Flock Milwaukee, ban Flock, remove the cameras and other surveillance tech that we have in Milwaukee, and as others have said, stop the police chases, because no data retention policy is protection enough. When the infrastructure exists, it will be abused.
Ron Jensen. Sorry. You good? Good evening.
Yeah, really not much left to say, right? Except for that we keep coming here and telling you things are gonna happen. Hundreds of people come here to tell you things are gonna happen, and then they happen. Some people judge you for the things you say, other people try to silence you for the things you have to say, and yet, like, the reality keeps coming true. You know, I don't even know what's on the agenda tonight, and I don't much care. Like, this department is loaded to the brim with criminals, Milwaukee Police Department. They refuse to take action. The chief lies to cover for people. This newest incident, they didn't even fire the guy. They let him resign. And as we know, that leads to these people being in other departments to do abuses again and again and again. And so I will say this again. Chief Norman is a coward because he refuses to take action in these instances where he is supposed to be a leader. He's supposed to be the guy who protects us. I don't believe he does, but that's a lie he tells us. And so, you know, I understand that this body has been gutted through various means by the state government, but we have got to be very vocal about making a change here. I believe you all have the power to fire the police chief, is that correct?
Only for cause.
We have it.
Yeah, I would argue we do have a cause. I would think lying by omission to the public about the use of FRT while feigning the production of an SOP, I think that's probably cause. I think refusing to fire people who have committed criminal acts, instead letting them resign. Presumably, I assume those people will then get some type of benefit out of the department afterwards, is probably for cause. And let's not forget the other criminal actors. Jawan Madlock, I believe was the guy's name, who I asked the chief personally, hey, when did you know about this criminal behavior? And he basically just said, like, well, I didn't know until the feds came and told me. That's not great, guys. It's not great. And yet we just reappointed this guy, and I think we gave him a raise. And yet we have to keep turning out here with, 100 people every few weeks to push back against some other horrific policy coming out of this department. This department is killing people. It is stealing our futures in the form of tax dollars. Every dollar that goes into this department is a horrific waste. I walked in late. There's 5 squad cars sitting outside idling. That's greenhouse gases. It's a waste of fuel. It's a waste of resources. It's a waste of man hours. What are we doing? If we cannot accelerate the removal of lead pipes from this city, if we cannot invest in infrastructure, jobs programs, health programs, we are losing. So all of that is just to say, I don't know. I don't know what else we can do through this body. I think it's very useful as a sounding board to push the conversation forward. Clearly that has worked in some ways, but we've got to find a way to defang this department and really start to focus on the health and the well-being of the residents of this city. That's all I really have. Thank you.
Bridget, is there anyone appearing virtually for public comment?
Yes, Director, we have 3 people who are appearing for public comment. The first person would be Janine. Second would be Ruth. Last would be Julie.
All right, good evening. Janine, if you could unmute your mic and then make your comment.
Hey there. Thank you for taking comments tonight. My name is Jeannie Lupo. I speak today on behalf of Enough is Enough, a legacy for Aaron. Our mission is to eliminate criminal reckless driving that results in innocent injury or death. Our primary work is court watch in Milwaukee County, where we observe and report on the sentencing outcomes of fleeing and reckless driving cases. First, I have one procedural question and one suggestion. I've looked at the agenda several times. Can you tell me what agenda item is this flock camera supposed to be discussed in?
That item is not on the agenda.
Oh, okay, thank you. The other is a suggestion that I wondered if it would be more productive to take the public comments after your discussion of the agenda item. Like for me personally, I would have liked to have heard your rationale for, I'm going to speak on the operating procedure change, but it might have helped me a lot to hear your rationale and your explanation before my comment. But I'm happy that you're willing to take my public comment. I question the intent and necessity of additional changes to the pursuit policy. The police department has already announced and implemented changes and presented them publicly alongside Director Todd. Further revisions create confusion for citizens, for officers, and for offenders. Instability in policy sends a dangerous message. When rules appear fluid or contested between governing bodies, it undermines clarity and can embolden lawlessness. We must remember that reckless driving, fleeing, and endangering safety are choices made by drivers. The criminal, not the officer, is the source of danger. The vast majority of citizens stop when police signal them. That message must remain clear and consistent. Stop for the police. We often forget that these men and women who are fathers, sisters, mothers, and spouses risk their own lives daily to keep the rest of us safe in our communities. Upon reviewing the proposed changes, I'm concerned about unintended interpretation. If officers cannot initiate stops for speeding alone, are we signaling that speeding is acceptable? Speed is the foundation of nearly every reckless driving case we see in court. Many defendants would have received a traffic citation had they simply stopped. Instead, they now carry felony convictions, one of which cannot be expunged. That is life-altering and often the result of a short-sighted decision to flee. Vision Zero funded a whole campaign about speeding, we can live without it. Does this change or dismiss and thwart all of their efforts. I'm also concerned about language suggesting that if continuation of a pursuit increases danger, it must be terminated. If fleeing drivers learn that certain reckless maneuvers, such as driving on the wrong side of the boulevard or on the wrong side of the street, automatically cause officers to disengage, we risk incentivizing exactly those behaviors. Policy must allow for reasonable, common sense discretion by trained officers on the street. Research from the National Institute of Justice emphasizes that the certainty of being caught is a stronger deterrent than the severity of punishment. Effective policing, swift and certain, prevents crime. Limiting officers' ability to intervene reduces deterrence. The greatest public safety message we can send is that fleeing will not succeed. Most importantly, there should be equal, if not greater, effort devoted to public education. A traffic stop is temporary. Felony conviction is permanent. Compliance is always the better choice. Finally, I have a specific clarifying question. To Section 6 regarding refusal to stop, pursuits for lesser offenses override or negate the prior limitations in the policy.
I'll do my best to answer that. So short answer is no. So a refusal to stop is where someone does not stop in response to an attempted police stop, but they are going nevertheless a reasonable speed and are not taking either excessive speeding or evasive maneuvers to flee from the officer. That's considered the fleeing, where a refusal to stop is exactly that, but it doesn't have an increased speed or evasion. It's still a reasonable speed.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for the explanation. And thank you for your time and for carefully reconsidering whether further policy changes enhance or undermine public safety, as well as the effectiveness of our police to ensure it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Liquor.
Next is Rick.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Ruth Aragon. My daughter Erin and her unborn baby were killed because someone chose to drive recklessly and flee the police. The pursuit was ended quickly, but the driver continued his reckless driving until he killed my daughter as she was simply sitting in an intersection waiting to turn. Through advocacy work and the time spent observing how these cases move through our system, I've seen firsthand how serious, but yet how complex this issue is. We should examine how pursuits are conducted and make certain our officers are using this tool appropriately and responsibly. This is part of good oversight and good policy. With these pursuit policy changes, though, we must be very careful about the message it sends. The conversations that we have must stay focused on the decision to flee. We must not simply allow stepping on an accelerator when pulled over by police. We cannot allow the discussion to shift the focus away from the behavior that starts these situations in the first place, and the behavior that this community needs to see end. It's reckless driving, the decision not to stop, and pressing the accelerator instead of pulling over. These are the decisions which put officers, passengers, drivers, and our community at risk. We ask our officers to protect the public from those who disregard the safety of others. And the vast majority of our officers carry out that responsibility every day with commitment and integrity.
Lies.
No, they don't.
Despite perceptions to the contrary. The vast majority. These officers deserve the tools and support necessary to do their job effectively, a job that few of us would do. This means supporting tools like the vehicle impoundment law, traffic safety cameras, towing authority, and continued investment in responsible technology, which helps identify offenders so they may be held accountable. If one tool is limited, others must be strengthened. Without this, what are we saying to those who would do harm to our community? It was the responsible use of technology that assisted the police in finding and bringing to justice my daughter's killer. The community is increasingly fatigued by reckless and aggressive driving. People are tired of it, tired of fleeing vehicles racing through neighborhoods, and tired of feeling like the rules no longer apply to some. In response to fleeing, we must be very clear and meaningful. Drivers who choose to run will be identified and held accountable. And we must strengthen the tools needed to do so. And when we discuss this pursuit policy, it's important to remember the message we all send. We must be careful that this does not unintentionally create the perception that police won't chase, therefore press the accelerator, that that's worth the risk. Our messaging must remain simple. You stop for the police. When police activate their lights, the expectation is clear. You pull over, you stop. Our policies, our enforcement, and our courts must all work together to reinforce this. That's my message. And I really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lastly is Julie.
Hi, Julie Curcio, Milwaukee County resident. This meeting is currently on your city website, the city channel streaming schedule for 5:30 p.m. I can send you screenshots if you like. I just wanted to make that correction since someone was on record saying it wasn't. And I'd like to comment on MPD's response to the abuse of the flock camera system. In a recent interview regarding flock, the chief was reported as saying this technology isn't going anywhere. Another out-of-touch response and a pattern of dismissive responses from the MPD to the grave and legitimate concerns from the public. The chief's defense of flock has been that he claims it helps solve crimes, but the data out there does not support this conclusion, and it certainly doesn't support any conclusion that the handful of cases claimed to have been solved with the help of flock outweighs the cost to resident privacy and safety. It does not. A study was done by flock that they used for marketing to boast that they solved 10% of crimes. This faulty study has repeatedly come into question, including by one of its own researchers, its author. I'll say more about that in a little bit here, but I also want to say I think it's worth hammering home what somebody else brought up about Austin, Texas, and their use of flock. City with a population of, I think, about 1 million people. They implemented one of the most restrictive ALPR programs, and it still failed in audit. And further revealed that the flock systems generated yet not anywhere near 10%. More in the range of tens or hundreds, maybe thousands of 8%. In a 9-month period, they scanned license plates 75 million times and reported 165 arrests and 130-some prosecutions out of 75 million privacy violations. Despite their strict policies, strictest about in the nation, they failed their city's audit regarding the use of flock for reasons that included a 20% rate of improper use. That's 1 in 5 times that it was used by their police. It was inappropriately done, including improper documentation, sound familiar, or justification. Despite their city having established these strict guardrails, and Chief Norman playing in our faces with his FU citizens interviews where he proudly admits kind of an answer to Mr. Del Toro, that every single one of MPD's police officers today has access to Flock. He proudly said that in an interview, you can watch him online. And he says there's swift accountability. Ayala misused it, 179 times? Where was the swift accountability? I'm quoting the chief, swift accountability. Well, I would think that'd be after the first time, maybe the 10th, 50th, 100th, 150th. It wasn't until the victim discovered it and reported it. To Mr. Jansen's point, that I think that's a reason to get rid of a chief that allows that to happen. Back to the study, the 4 authors listed were two Flock employees and 2 university professors. One, Dr. John Enon, one of the credited authors, on public record expressing his concerns about the study and the conclusions people are making. He's a professor of criminology and criminal justice and an associate dean of graduate studies. He knows there are major gaps in the study and says subsequent research is needed, in particular with regard to larger agencies. He admits the study was intended merely as an initial exploration into understanding this technology's use by and efficacy for law enforcement. And he went on to list a myriad of concerns and suggestions for additional study that he believes is necessary. You know, and someone else was commenting earlier, sometimes I'm glad I have to go last all the time. The public comes overly prepared for these meetings because no one will listen to us unless we are fully researched. Meanwhile, the police get to, I don't know, lie, cherry pick what they want to say, and they're automatically given more authority because of the power dynamic between police and public. Anyway, all this to say, De-Flock Milwaukee, cancel the contract with Flock, remove all the cameras, issue a complete ban on ALPR, ban FRT, listen to, respect, and respond accordingly to the people. Free all people, free Palestine, it's all connected. Thank you for your time.
I did want to acknowledge that that is correct. It does appear that the city clerk's Channel 25 website does list the meeting start time as 5:30. That is an administrative error, but that's not a website that the FPC controls. The agenda is correctly listed at 5, which is the official start time. But that was an administrative oversight or error.
Are we here for public comments?
That's correct.
Quite a bit.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
So I know we need to get through the consent agenda and the examinations, which will take about 3 minutes. But then I would like to move that we move item 13 up to the top of new business, which is, I think, the vehicle one.
Yes.
Yes, we're in agreement.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
like to take a 5-minute break.
Oh, yeah, we need a break. Okay, we are adjourned for 5 minutes.
So send it. Yeah, we'll work on it, yeah. Oh, sure. It's Yeah, what was your name? Oh, nice, right on, I'm James, awesome, I'm James. Nice to meet you. Yeah, please, thank you.
Oh.
Hey, you too.
Hey, come on, Tiff. Come on, buddy.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Come on, Tiff, come right. Retired as hell.
Is that all?
Oh, my name's Alyssa.
Perfect.
I'm gonna hear what they're gonna say.
Hey, so, yeah, so what did I tell you, it's like, it's more characteristic as of late, right? It's just like, the marathon, that is meeting now.
This is way better shape than where the one meeting was 11 o'clock, the last one before that.
Well, at least they moved it forward.
The same event, there was like the last two.
Was it 5 minutes?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Yep.
Common Council, I think, is like 1/3 of
Usually it's like, yeah, a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
I prepared for 2 minutes, and I was really expecting it to drop it over, so.
What's it called, the one piece of shit, the one that hung up on tape, or whatever. Yeah, I know it's not on his, that one safety committee, so we won't have to deal with it.
Oh, yeah, Westmoreland, the guy that hung up on me, I went on there to, write a letter and to find out he's not on the committee anymore. But he'll still need to vote if he's. But I wrote a letter anyway saying, no, you're not on there anymore, but it was disrespectfully hanging up on me, and then he didn't even know why I was calling, because I wasn't in the district. And so they're disgraceful and unprofessional, and I hope this is just a oversight.
Trust him over, look at Westmoreland, yeah. Yeah, I have a whole thing of different Costco stuff.
Remember, wait, Heather, the police.
Yeah. She's normally the nearest quarter, and she's probably running around somewhere. And so she got really.
Wait, are you talking about the
public health.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the one with Brower, she was right there too.
Oh, yeah, she came Friday.
No, early. What is that? I think that's pretty good.
If you weren't at that one.
Someone was at that one that I remember hearing it and looking at it. I was sitting towards the front.
I was at the one at,
We know the whole thing that we're keeping.
I didn't hear, I know like the sheriff department was at, I don't know how to say it, but that's.
Yeah, so essentially what it's, just get it at the cost of handing over one shop. Like people, that way should I get better. Like, let's fuck up. No, I'm saying like, to like, that's an effort to like, get better, operated or whatever. Or to make that strength. Yeah, exactly, like, you should already, get Jordan police with that, it's fun. Goes a long way. But, yeah, at the price of most shops, that's how they got, that work team, for good to go.
Yeah. Right, no, I was like, that's fine.
So that 11 o'clock meeting happened or whatever. What's it called? And, well, it was at the day of our French funeral. What's it called? I mean, he was asked about it, you know, obviously you can't lie to the rights of all men to ask. Right? He admitted that, oh, we're already using it for chief. The next morning, take a lit service of, the moratorium on 660. Or, you know, he was saying like, oh, they should consider this. Oh, listen, man, I can consider doing 1,000 things every day. You know, like, you know, changing my oil. Sometimes mine never comes. Like, yeah, you get the picture, right?
I wasn't sure if there was another inciting instance of this use of the.
There are,
Oh, no, see. Oh, yeah, he is. Yeah, no, see, yeah, homeboy's right there, Jack Norman.
He probably was, if he had plus whatever on it, so he probably was hiding. Well, notice that he doesn't request it.
Yeah, I know in the past, like, they've all, like, said one or whatever, during the 575 days, it was like Heather, the chief, and a few other people. But, it looks like they're all separate now. Yeah.
No, I wasn't sure if part of that part.
Yeah.
Not so aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, Brian is 1,000% correct, that actual is just a racist fucking thing, yeah. That's right, it was like literally, I think a week after we won 575.
So a couple years?
It was, yeah, like several years ago, so like I was in like 2023 and then onward.
I mean, there's actually some different stuff.
Yeah, I kind of, yeah, when they go to Bernie.
For teachers.
Yeah.
I remember they.
Oh, so I'm sure you.
I remember they went to Madison.
Yeah.
Went to the Capitol, and they were there.
Yeah, there's a picture of Chris in Valkenburg, you know, that's like a kid, you know, there, sign.
There's a picture of me somewhere, but I remember it.
I remember walking off by school or whatever. Because I guess all granted, you know, as a teenager, as a teenager, I was like, oh, that's cool, you know, and not taking a bigger picture, because, you know, every part of it, I forgot how old I was, but, you know.
You don't need me, do you? And that is
Yeah, they do. Yeah, also, there's some kind of county rules where they're taking exclusive like this, you know, then they have to.
Rattle and roll.
During the resolution to ceasefire the county, I remember like Alan, like, turkeys leave all the time. This, like, pretty sure it's not this, when they talk, so they have to obey it, you know? You know, so I was in the next one, you gotta have to put it. Like I said, I think I'll take a day 3 or 4 of that, so, yeah, I dropped like 15 pounds in like 2 weeks. It was bad, my brother and I were out for like, over a week. So essentially it was majority of our vacation. I hadn't kind of put it on. But that was, Yeah, me, well, then I went to cut off. So then I landed in Chicago, so I cut off. Yeah. No, I got it.
Yeah.
Well, you got 6 hours before me. And I think I got it, I got me fun.
I feel like that song is like the only thing we're doing. Like still being honest with you, like working really like against the flow.
Bridget, are we recording? Are we divided through?
We are still recording. I do not see Commissioner Evans on there. So I'm going to shoot him a quick email. Is it?
Okay. All right. I think we can go ahead.
Okay.
All right. Director, please proceed with the agenda.
I will now read the items on the consent agenda. After I do so, any commissioner may remove any item to the regular agenda for discussion or appropriate action. Items not removed may be adopted by general consent without debate. Item 2, FPC 212418, resolution relating to the February 19th, 2026 meeting minutes. Item 3, FPC 212419, resolution relating to the appointment to the maintenance assistant position within the Milwaukee Police Department. Item 4, FPC 212420, resolution relating to the appointment to the Police Service Specialist Investigator position within the Milwaukee Police Department. Item 5, FPC 212421, resolution to rescind the appointment to the Help Desk Specialist 2 position within the Milwaukee Police Department. Item 6, FPC 212425, resolution relating to the request to refer to the Department of Employee Relations a request for an examination and eligible list for the management account senior position within the Department of Emergency Communications. Item 7, FPC 212426, resolution relating to the request to refer to the Department of Employee Relations a request for an examination and eligible list for the electronic technician 1 through 3 positions within the Milwaukee Police Department. Item 8, FPC 212422, resolution relating to the electronic technician 1, 2, and 3 job announcement bulletin for the Milwaukee Police Department. Item 9, FPC 212423, resolution relating to the HVAC maintenance technician 1, 2, and 3 job announcement bulletin for the Milwaukee Police Department. And item 10, FPC 212424, resolution relating to the vehicle mechanic 3 eligible list for the Milwaukee Fire Department. This concludes the consent agenda.
Would any of the commissioners like to remove any of these items from the consent agenda to the regular agenda? If there are no objections, the items on the consent agenda will be adopted by general consent. Are there any objections? Hearing no objections, these items are adopted. Director, please proceed with the agenda.
I will now read the item under examinations, which is item 11, FPC 212427, resolution relating to the Emergency Communications Officer 1 job announcement bulletin for the Department of Emergency Communications.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Is there a motion on this matter?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I will take a voice vote on this item. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Director, please proceed with the agenda.
I will now read the items under new business, and as previously mentioned, we will be taking item 13 out of order next. So item 13, FPC 212249, Resolution recommending modification of Milwaukee Police Department Standard Operating Procedure 660, vehicle pursuits and emergency vehicle operations. And this is an item that was sponsored by Vice Chair Bree Spencer. Would you like to give an overview or intro?
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful just to set the table before you read through it. I brought a recommendation at this time because I want to make sure this stays on our agenda. I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to discuss what potential future changes could look like. We, as I mentioned before, we don't, because of open meeting rules, right, we don't meet in quorum outside of this. So this is really the opportunity we have to discuss this. I don't know how other commissioners feel about this recommendation, but I'm eager to hear about that tonight and see if we can get to a place of agreement about how to move forward. I think it also might be helpful for me to share my thinking about this. I think the city of Milwaukee has had some tough times with turning the tap off all the way, turning it on all the way, and the whipping back and forth of the policy resulting in some bad outcomes. And not just bad outcomes, but like also a lot of perception-driven things that aren't correct. I'm trying to find incremental changes we can make that will reduce the number of vehicle pursuits to the aim of reducing injuries and deaths associated with police vehicle pursuits. One of those places comes from the very policy that MPD used to help inform the changes they did make a month ago, which is from Minneapolis. It's a much more restrictive policy than we had here. And there was a critical piece that I felt was left out, which is that if you stop someone for a minor violation and they speed away, that should not result in a vehicle chase, and it should not result ever in death or injury. So that is, I think, a critical missing aspect of the policy and why I've recommended that here. There's a reckless driving component to that as well. But the reason why I hear tonight, I heard people say it doesn't go far enough, and I do hear you. I'm inclined to agree because I don't think that we're anywhere near what the research says yet about what is right to do with police policy. However, we also have a not too distant example in the mid-2010s where the tap got turned off really fast, and then everybody blamed the restrictive policy for the massive uptick in reckless driving, and we got a really bad backswing into a really bad permissive policy. And so I'm hoping that we don't end up there again, and that we're just consistently moving towards the restrictive policy that's at the level we need in the city. I think part of what sorry, I just want to say this too, I think part of what didn't go well before is I don't think there was a lot of engagement with the public. So there wasn't like bringing people along with the research that shows why police pursuits are so dangerous. And that allowed sort of the narrative to get taken over, and we resulted with the policy that's been resulted in the injuries and deaths that we've seen over the last couple of years. So, well, that's kind of my intro, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this forward.
Just make one small
Sure.
point. I just wanted to draw the commissioner's attention to number 6 of the recommended change, and that's because I did make a minor change today. At the end of paragraph 6, previously had a parenthetical explanation that accepted reckless driving from the prohibition of it says a pursuit shall not be initiated or shall be terminated if the driver is refusing to or failing to stop, and the only known reason for the attempted stop is an ordinance violation or a misdemeanor. It previously said in parentheses except for reckless driving. I changed that so it said except as otherwise provided for in SOP 660.20 sub C. And the reason for that minor tweak is because paragraph 3 does allow vehicle pursuits for misdemeanor shots fired incidents. So I wanted to cover that as well. So just wanted to put that on the record.
Okay.
which are very rare.
Yes.
And specifically refer to somebody like sort of accidentally firing off a firearm.
Or shooting in the air,
Yeah, right.
which is still dangerous. The bullet has to go somewhere. Okay, so I appreciate that. And I think I'll just open it up for discussion. And we may as well start with our most loquacious person.
Thank you. I tried to earn that big SAT word. I want to thank you, Commissioner Spencer, for bringing this to us and for being a driver in this. I also want to acknowledge the role of the public in pushing for changes to this SOP, the pain of the families who have lost someone due to these dangerous pursuits, the cost to taxpayers when there are lawsuits as a result of these pursuits, and the fact that the Police Executive Research Forum itself says that vehicle pursuits are one of the most dangerous police activities. And I think we know that to be true, but they are dangerous for the officers in the cars, they are dangerous for the people that they are chasing, and they are dangerous for bystanders. So I'm thinking about all of that as I consider what's before us today. I'm also thinking about the framing, because I think throughout these conversations, we tend to sort of accidentally default to, I think, a couple of logical fallacies. I think that we're conflating, this, I guess you refer to it as the tap fully on, tap fully off, right? Our choices are certainly not all or nothing here. I also think that at times we're conflating no pursuit with no accountability, and I think we know that we have enough tools in our toolbox to know that that doesn't have to be true. I'll quote the NYU policing project in saying restrictive pursuit policies save lives and result in more arrests. So it's certainly not true that there's no accountability when there is no pursuit. I think one thing, or I'll first say, I am in support of making changes to this SOP and to continuing to move towards something that is safer for everyone involved. One thing that I struggle with is, I think I agree with a lot of the folks that gave public comment today that we don't really have enough data. And I don't feel like I have enough data to know for sure what changes to policy or what parts or conditions of vehicle pursuits are actually the most dangerous. And that's something that I think the public deserves to know, but also that this commission needs in order to be making nuanced decisions here. I don't really know if vehicle pursuits actually result in less reckless driving. I have no idea if that's true. What I do know is that vehicle pursuits double, or in some cases triple, depending on how many cars are pursuing, the number of cars that are driving at really high speeds. I think, I was a teenager once, not that long ago, I swear, and I also did some pretty wild stuff that I probably wouldn't do anymore. And so I do struggle with the fact that I don't necessarily know that in some cases the sort of fear of getting caught is genuinely a deterrent here. But I also just don't have enough data to understand what is and isn't true here. And I think that that's something that I would like this commission to have from the department, and for the department to also dig a little deeper in terms of analysis, especially in these lethal pursuits. So I do want to let other folks talk. I think I'm just sort of going through my framing in terms of what I'm thinking about when I'm looking at this. But the too long didn't read TLDR of it is that I'm in support of your changes, Commissioner Spencer.
Yes, well said, well said. The only thing I'd add to this is an interesting opportunity to really engage public on a policy that impacts all. Do appreciate everybody that's come out with a particular viewpoint on this, but I can tell you that there's a wide continuum relative to the residents of this city on this issue. And it gives us the ability to actually do a better job of engaging people on whatever policy is on the table and having discussions on the impacts of that. Because I can assure you that our elders are going to want to engage their constituents on this issue if brought forward, because they're the ones who pushed for a change some time ago. That being said, very optimistic that we can do a better job of engaging this community on such an important policy issue.
Thank you. And you already spoke. Commissioner.
Yeah, I can't really add anything to that other than I think this specific paragraph, bullet number 6, we talked about, the last time we talked about this SOP, and I think you brought it up, I echoed that, and that was something I believe in the end when you studied that this does not, this only promotes the reckless driving after the stop like that. So I agree with this as a great starting point, a great jump off point, so yeah, full support.
Okay, on board, Commissioner Burgos.
Okay. I have a different perspective, having worked through as a police officer from all the historical perspectives here, where we could chase, when we couldn't chase, and now when we released the troops to chase again. I'm not a numbers guy, really not, but I've been there and investigated numerous, if not a dozen, vehicle accidents for which police were involved in, directly designed pursuits. Very sadly, some of them were fatal. I know that 3 or 4 police officers personally that died in chases, direct results of high-speed chases. I'll give you names if you want them. There has to be somewhere between where we limit the amount of chases. These chases, I don't know what the actual time, I thought it was like 90 seconds, the average time of the pursuit. Police officers are very, if you get involved in a pursuit, 90 seconds or so is not very long to determine should I turn this pursuit off or not. And that's where policy comes in, whether we can chase or not. I'm conflicted. I mean, I was never a vehicle chase guy. I never did. Very few, less than 5. But I understand the need for some pursuit. It's just, I agree some of these, I'm in total agreement that we should have some more restriction. I just don't know at what level. And that's where the conversation comes in with the leadership of the department, because they're the ones that have to implement it, and the community and community members, community leaders. I just don't know where we start. I'm not the numbers guy, but data. Data is okay, but that's not. I've been there and investigated dead bodies laid on the ground, police officers and citizens. And that's an ugly, ugly situation. It never leaves me. So I know we need to have some very strict policy. How strict, I don't know. The same thing was said in the 2010s when the policy was changed. We know that everybody's fleeing the police because there is no chase policy. And it was anecdotal. There was no data. It was all anecdotal. And we forced the chief to chase the policy. I was in agreement back then.
until I start investigating the dead individuals and citizens. So I look at it from a purely human perspective. I was there, I saw it, I investigated them. Was it necessary? It's one of the questions I always have to ask. Was it necessary? And it never really got, not, sometimes, occasionally, there were some of those that they were not very good answers. And we led to some very bad situations. I don't agree that we should have no chases or very, very restrictive chases, but we do have to have some strict guidance, so much more, I think some more limits on what the chases are. We have way too many chases, and I know where it starts and where it ends. But I totally agree we need to do some more reviewing of this policy, maybe more restrictive policy in place. We have way too many chases.
Thank you.
That's all.
Madam Chair, can I just respond to something Commissioner Burgo said? Commissioner, if this is helpful, I did have our audit manager go back and look at the sample from our 2024 audit on vehicle pursuits, which was looking at 2023 pursuits or incidents or data. And it was roughly, of the sample at least, about 15% fell into this bucket of post-stop attempt reckless driving as the justification. So I don't know if that, I'm sorry?
For the pursuit, right.
For the justification for the pursuit, correct. If that context is helpful, now that's not to say that would be even from year to year or that the sample is 100% accurate, but that's the, I think, the best estimate I could give you as far as what the universe that might be affected by this policy change recommendation might be.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rowe Patterson.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm in a space of needing more information to make a decision. I know when I'm driving, I have this in my head that an intersection is very dangerous because of the pursuits. But I think that I'm in the toggle. That's why I'm listening for the and. How can this be a little bit tighter, as well as I'm not for them being no pursuits, nor am I for the way it's happening now. I think our streets need to be safer, but also I am not for giving the person that needs the pursuit, and maybe that's where the decision-making will come in, that needs the pursuit should not be pursued. I just remember the little bit of time when I was doing a drive along and we had to chase someone that was speeding. That was scary. Very, very scary. So I will just yield to us being able to continue to have the dialogue so that we can come to a better sense of what this really will take for our community and what we really need in our community. And yeah, I'm not for dismantling it altogether, nor am I for the way things are now.
Thank you. Commissioner Evans?
Yeah, I just want to say I'm hopeful because hearing all the public testimony, hearing how our community is coming out on both sides of it, right? And I believe in the process, and I believe with hearing both sides and working as a team and the leadership of Director Todd and Deputy Director and making these recommendations and Bree come up with it. I think all together in every case, whether we're commissioners or directors or we're citizens and we're sharing I believe in the process that we will come to a situation where yeah, we're not letting people, commit homicides and things like that, we're not going after them. But at the same time, we're not going after people, for things that, we can use, our investigative tools, to locate the criminals, so to speak. So I just want to say that I am hopeful and I do believe in the process, and I just want to thank everybody for their commitment, doing what's best for Milwaukee.
Okay, and I'd like to allow the department, is there a representative from the police department who can comment or weigh in on this? No? Heather is here. Oh, great. Okay. Or Chief Sarno? Yeah. You want Assistant Chief Sarno or you want the Chief of Staff? Any comments?
Yes, thank you, commissioners, and appreciate the dialogue that I was present for tonight on both sides, from the public and you all. We're confident with the changes we made so far that was presented to the Fire and Police Commission about a month ago, and then subsequently to the Public Safety and Health Committee. I look forward in the future in presenting additional data to you all. To your point, Commissioner Fung, I would just like to point out that you did provide me with some things you wanted to see in the presentation prior to it back in October, and I was able to hit 6 of them, with the exception of being the pursuit routes with respect to the incidents that resulted in fatalities, and I provided you with an explanation as to why that could be done. If there's things that you would like to see or made available, please reach out to me. Let me know what they are and I can look into it. We will continue to pursue mitigation technology, something that the chief and I have spoken on. I spoke on it last time through the Haas Mobile Alert and the Star Chase GPS platform. Those things are moving through the city purchasing process now, and we're confident by early spring we're going to start to see some movement there. So that is all.
Thank you. Okay, well, I guess I get a chance to talk too. Personally, I'm in favor of this resolution. I think that it is important for there to be a policy that does not allow pursuits simply because of speed away, failure to stop. There was, I think, a case where there was a car sped away when the officers were just stopping them for a taillight violation or something like that, and it ended up being a tragedy. So I am in favor of the resolution. What I'm hearing, however, is that perhaps there's an appetite for more changes than what this resolution provides. So I'd like to know if there's a motion to approve the resolution, that's one thing. If there's a motion to set it over for additional consideration, that's another thing. And I leave it up to the commissioners to decide if there's going to be such a motion and what the results are.
I guess I do want to flag that I heard tonight that there were some specific policy asks related to the inclusion of SOP 575, striking the line about that would sort of restrict discretion related to whether or not an officer thinks someone may be about to commit a violent crime, addition to a data or audit report out frequency shared with the public, and then also something related to sharing the cost of vehicle pursuits to the city. And I think all of those are relevant, and I would be willing to discuss them. I think, like, for inclusion or for, we have to talk about them. And I know it's a matter of such frustration that it takes so long, but it does, and we do want to get it right. So I just wanted to flag that. Like, I'm sort of open to further discussion about this, if that's maybe where we're at. I'm not sure.
Then you can make a motion to...
Well, I don't know. I want to see what people think first about that before I drop ahead.
Do we want to act on the resolution as it's drafted, or do we want to put it over so that other changes might be incorporated.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I guess not knowing what the common council is gonna do, I'm in favor of bringing something forward and letting conversation take place on the various pieces that came up tonight, or additional pieces that might come up during that conversation. But until we put something, I'm sorry, I should speak into the mic. Until we put something forward, we're not completely sure. Yeah, what additional pieces are needed to drive that conversation on policy change.
Okay, well, as I understand the process, it would be that if we adopt this resolution, it would then be allowing the department to accede to it or not. If they do not accede to it, then is presented to the common council in the form of a council member or a president of the council putting forth their own resolution, which then has to be passed by 2/3. That process will go through committee, safety committee, and certainly there'll be time to add into that, okay? So it's not as though this language is the only language that the common council will be able to consider. We can send additional information to the council. We can have more information provided at public safety. But you're right. If we table it, if we put it off, when are we going to get to some action on it? So I appreciate that.
And Madam Chair, I don't want to suggest that we can't come to a resolution with leadership within MPD. That may be, that may be where we land.
Right.
But I just think that having something that we can bring forward for discussion now is better than delaying.
I think Commissioner Burgos has something to say.
Go ahead, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Haven't heard the Assistant Chief's comments. I would assume that the Chief does not agree with the policy the way it's written. Are we ready to go forward with this battle? And at the way it's written? Because if the Chief of Police and the command staff don't agree with the way we're suggesting, and we haven't gotten their input into it, then it's going to be a conflict that's going to have to be settled at municipal level, like you said. Are we prepared? Are we ready? Are we satisfied with the writing that we have now? Move forward in disagreement with the chief.
Any other thoughts here?
I think Commissioner
Madam Chair.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. That's my point, that I think that there are a few more ands that we can include versus going forward with what we have now. So I appreciate us being able to talk about it openly, but it seems that if we could get as much buy-in so that we don't have to go back and forth, it would make more sense to me because the police department has to implement it.
Okay, so any other comments? Well, then I guess we can do a few things. We could send this resolution to the committee, and they can hold additional meetings in committee, which is available for public comments and for consideration. But it's it's not 9 people, it's, what are it, 5 people? 5 people. And it's more flexible in terms of scheduling and that type of thing. That may be a way of keeping it live and not letting it linger, so that we get that additional input or data or comment that is, or the ands that might be of interest to include. hate to just, say, we'll take it up again. I think we have to keep working on it actively. So do I have a motion to send it to
What committee would it go to?
accountability?
Yeah, oversight and accountability, which meets, I believe, the third or fourth week in March. Next.
So I do want to be clear though, like, I think that the list that I laid out is representative of what was asked in the meeting. So I just want to be clear to everyone who's here and who stayed for this portion, like, that will be in the committee discussion. And obviously you are, of course, welcome to come to any open meeting that you would like to, but I want you to know that the things you brought forward will be discussed and taken seriously.
Yeah, well, my feeling is that what we've got so far is great. The only question is, should there be more restrictions placed on chases? Or is there some language that, can be added that make the intention more clear? But I think unless I get a motion to approve the resolution as written.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I'm going to make a motion for this resolution to oversight and accountability.
Oh, to refer it to committee.
Yes.
I think I feel good about that because I don't think the language is all the way there yet based on, and I do also think it's really hard to write as a group of 9 people. It's much easier to react to like a really solid draft. And again, this is a step in the right direction, but, it's not all the way there yet.
And for the record, the next oversight and accountability committee meeting is on March 24th, which should be Tuesday.
So we need a second on that motion.
We have a second? Okay. So we have a motion to refer to the oversight committee and a second, and I will take a voice vote on that. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Please proceed with the agenda.
Madam Chair, may I ask a procedural question about the committee? Sure. So once this is sent to the oversight committee, does it then, and sorry, I may have missed this, does it then, presumably we would have a discussion about, the items that we heard about today, and then do we make a recommendation back to, I guess, what is the actual procedure to make a recommendation back to the full board for a vote?
Yes, so you could recommend approval as is, or the committee could, or you could recommend amendments to it, approval as amended.
Okay.
And then it would come back to the full FPC board, which could either accept the proposed amendments and approve as amended, or do something completely different, go back to the original.
Yeah. So, and then we could take this up on the first agenda in April.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just trying to get a sense of what the time frame was here.
Sorry, and the idea is that the committee can help actually firm up the language so that when it comes back to the big group, there's something robust.
Right. And also, it gives you another little period of time to seek out any data that you think can be helpful that has not already been produced. Data.
And input from the FPD.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
right.
That and,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. And we have handled this item, and
Okay.
please proceed with the agenda.
And so now we're moving back to item 12, FPC 2.
Just quickly,
Sure.
Madam Chair, you don't have to take a vote on that. No, this is
I
committee.
think we said voice vote.
Did we?
You first and he second.
Yeah, but we didn't take.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought I said aye.
You did. We're just tired.
All in favor, say aye.
Okay.
Okay, we did.
Okay.
I mean, I'm getting old and my memory goes, but I do remember that. Okay.
I remember.
Okay. All right, we're going back to item 12, which is FPC 212428. Independent from Milwaukee Police Department relating to recent changes to changes including amendments to 3 policies, standard operating procedure 0.
Democracy.
020, jury duty, SOP 340, uniforms, equipment, and appearance, and standard